Hello everyone, and welcome to the newest episode of the Read Right to Left podcast. First for 2022, and today, for this month, we are doing a Shonen Jump App spotlight, wherein we talk about a whole bunch of the titles available on their mobile app as well as their website, and answer some of your questions. This has been a big undertaking, especially on Ray's behalf. She's put in a lot of work for this particular episode, which is greatly appreciated, Ray. And hopefully it wasn't too much of a struggle or too much of a upset.
Well, it was certainly upsetting at times. But I had a good time overall.
Thank goodness for that. So, hopefully, all you listeners do enjoy, and rather than spend too long, I think we're just going to jump straight into it. So, for those who don't know, the few of you who may be out there, the Shonen Jump app, or the Shonen Jump service, is a online and mobile app that provides simulpublishing for all of the major Shonen Jump titles, all of the major Viz titles, so it's not purely Jump stuff, as well as a whole bunch of their backlog digital availability. So for a nominal fee of, I think it's $2 US a month, you have access to read pretty much everything available from Viz's Shonen Jump line, which does include stuff that isn't actually from Jump, as well as a couple odd little things here and there as well.
You know, if you're dying to read Boys Over Flowers, that is also on there with all of its sequels. So
for some reason. So it's a really interesting service that at launch was really kind of a response to this, I guess, perpetual argument for piracy of immediacy and having things available for fans to read when they are published. So this is a service that does that. It publishes the newest chapters of a whole bunch of different titles, everything in Shonen Jump, as well as a bunch of their other magazines and Jump Plus, things like that. The day that it is released in Japan, fully translated, and so for those fans who do like to read week to week, so if you're following One Piece or Dr. Stone or My Hero Academia or whatever it is, you can read it right as it comes out, and hopefully replace any illegal scans that you may have been following prior to that. It's a fantastic service that I've been using since launch because I do like to read read and try a bunch of stuff that Viz has put out without necessarily having to invest in buying a whole bunch of paperback copies of things. Mm-hmm. I think it's a really good solution for that. And also, if you're someone who likes manga but doesn't have the space or the money for a large collection, it's also a really good opportunity to catch up on some of the most popular shonen stuff available, and without having to, spend your money, without having to dedicate bookshelves to a personal collection. I think it's a really, really good tool, and we've seen, it's been come to light that due to how it simulpubs things, how it makes things available, it has actually cut down a lot on illegal scans, on people reading some of these very, very popular titles through illegal means, because now they do have this availability. Mm-hmm. And it also means that we see a lot of the lesser known Jump titles, namely a lot of the stuff that gets kind of cancelled early on, finding their way to English right when that's happening. So you can kind of have a real-time reaction to that as well. It's very interesting, very curious.
Yep, it was certainly interesting. But yeah, I also think it's worth pointing out that this is basically, well, I suppose Manga Plus more so is a direct copy of like the existing Shonen Jump Plus app in Japan, in Japanese. But basically, online manga readers, mobile manga readers have been a huge thing in Japan for quite a few years now. And Shonen Jump, Shueisha, but Shonen Jump specifically, has really been on the cutting edge of that. The CEO of Shonen Jump is like a very tech-savvy guy who's very interested in trying stuff like that. Just Shonen Jump has kind of been pretty tech-savvy, pretty, hip with the kids as far as these kiddos and their apps and their cellular phones. Cellular telephones.
Yes, yeah. It's also, I think, important to mention that at least the English app, mobile app, you have the ability to read up to 100 chapters per day, which is a lot of manga for anyone. I've seen people complain about that, and it's like, literally, how do you have the time to read more than 100 chapters in a... But yeah, so there's for those who are who do have the app, you can not only read 100 chapters per day, which is just so much manga. Even if you don't have a membership, you can still read the 3 most recent chapters for free. So if you're not wanting to spend that $2 a month, you can stay up to date with whatever it may be. One Piece or Blue Exorcist or whatever. Which I think is really smart as well, because I think it made that transition from illegal scans to, this legal service a lot easier for fans.
And just to clarify, I do not use the app. I use the website for all of this because I have access only to the Japanese app store. And that doesn't help me very much. So I was using the website with a VPN. So functionality, I would assume, is a bit different. But I can talk about how that was. Do you use the app?
I do. Having used the website, or having access to the website as well, is a little bit different because you have a wider range, or a more complete range of the titles that, comparatively, just because of Apple's, issues with content. Some of the series that are available on the website are not available on the app. Things like Hell's Paradise and Golden Kamui and Dan Da Dan and that one chapter of Chainsaw Man are not on there because of violence and or sexual content. So yeah, there are differences, and so there's a bit of adaptability or a little bit of flexibility when it comes to that as well. But for the most part, Viz and Shueisha have tried to make it as easy as possible for fans to be able to read the things that they want in a timely and legal way.
Well, that's basically what Shonen Jump is. The app. But without further ado, I guess we should get into my journey.
Your long list of titles.
So I basically went into this with the goal of becoming a jack of all trades, master of none. So you will find that, with a couple of exceptions, for the most part, I did not go beyond like 10 chapters for each series in order to get sort of as many different titles as I could. And I kept note of everything that I read and applied an extremely arbitrary star rating out of 5, just so I could keep track of like what I liked and what I didn't and remember them better. So, today I was thinking I would go from the very bad, the 1-star titles, up to finish
Yay.
with the best ones at 5.
End on the strengths.
And on a good note, that'll make you want to explore this app and not want to bury your head in the sand for all time. And of course, there's a lot of stuff that, like, I had read already. I already am following the print releases of things like Spy Family and Hell's Paradise. And then there's other little bits and bobs that I've already read. A lot of older Jump, like Hikaru no Go and Death Note and Bakuman. Naruto, Bleach, all that. Rosario Vampire. Read a bunch of random stuff. But yeah, and I have a feeling that my taste and G's are going to overlap a lot. So, but, feel free to chime in with, like, any titles whenever you want.
Sounds good. Sounds great, in fact. And I'm morbidly curious to see what your 1-star titles were.
Great, it's a long list. Let's get to my 1-star titles. This is stuff that, for the most part, I dropped like a rock after 1 to 2 chapters. And for the most part, for something to be 1-star, it either had to be just thoroughly incompetent or somehow, like, deeply offensive. Or both. So
it's always possible to be both. So,
Oh boy, is it. Anyway, let's see. And I'm sorry if your favorite manga is on this 1-star list, but I really don't think your favorite manga is on this 1-star list, so it's fine. Let's start with a one-shot. This is Yugen's All Ghouls Homeroom. By Yuto Tsukuda and Shun Saeki. Shun Saeki is the Food Wars guy. He's also a big name in hentai. And I feel like that's relevant both to Food Wars and to this one-shot. The thing about these 1-star titles is that it's going to be a lot of stuff that I just straight up do not remember because it was just so boring, mostly. This one's just a very, very stock standard. Like, there's a cool guy who's, like, mysterious cool guy who shows up to, like, exorcise ghosts from people who are possessed or whatever. Except that he's also, like, I don't know, a lolicon or something. Or, I don't remember, a perv. He loves just, like, sexually harassing every woman that he meets, basically. Based on the purity of their souls. I remember that. Because I remember, like, the moment where I was like, oh, fuck you. It was, like, when they exorcised the girl. And it's like she was this big, scary, ugly monster, but then they're like, look at how pure her soul is, and she, like, came out looking like a thought. Like, the most, like, hentai girl, like, fucking, I was just like, you can fuck that shit. It was 1 chapter, and it was 1 chapter too long. I quickly got very tired of the ghost stories. Like, damn, that seems to be a huge trend, and boy, most of them are not good. The next one is another one about fucking ghosts. Yokai or whatever. This is Doron Dorodon, which
I
think was dropped after 5 chapters. Like, I think it ended.
Well, no, I think it's really new, so it only has 5-ish chapters. It's just started.
Is it still going?
Yeah, it's just started.
Anyway, it was bad.
Yeah, it's not a good one.
It's one of those that just feels like it's got the scaffolding there of, like, a very typical shonen manga, but the author does not know how to connect the scaffolding together. It just feels like a skeleton, you know? And also, like, the little alien pet that the main character has is not cute at all. Which I'm like, if you're gonna give your main character, like, a little Pokemon thing that's gonna be, like, the familiar or whatever, it better be cute, you know? Like, cute or cool or something. This thing just looked like a Pokemon reject, like... Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I didn't like that. It wasn't offensive or anything, it was just incompetent.
By the numbers to a fault. You know, it's not, there's nothing particularly outstanding about it. Nothing particularly interesting about it. Just
boring. Next one is one that I could not help complaining to G about, but I did read all 14 chapters. This is Time Paradox Ghostwriter. This is a case of just somebody had a really bad idea for a manga, and it got greenlit because the first chapter was competent. Just the author spent the rest of the series trying to recover from how bad his original idea was. Like, that is what it feels like. Like, it keeps, like, throwing shit at a wall, trying desperately to get something to stick, and trying desperately to backtrack from the plagiarism aspect inherent to the premise. This series, G did talk about in our manga about manga episode. But I know you've read this one, so do you want to, like, give the elevator pitch about what it's about?
Okay, so there's a guy. He really wants to be a Jump mangaka. He's been trying so hard. I can't even remember. I think he's had, like, a couple, like, moderate success, but nothing's really stuck for him. Anyway.
Just one-shots, I think.
Yeah. So, one day, his microwave gets hit by lightning. Something happens to his microwave, and he's been pulling an all-nighter, and this weird microwave deposits a copy of the Shonen Jump magazine from 10 years in the future, right? And it's full of all these different titles, and there's the debut chapter of this new series, and he's like, holy shit, this is amazing, I love this, like, that's the greatest manga ever. And he's like, you know what, this is fantastic. Anyway, the next morning, he's like, that was a crazy dream, and I somehow thought of the most amazing plot. He recreates that first chapter, because, to be fair to this guy, no one would you expect that you got a copy of Jump from 10 years in the future? No.
Yeah, see, like, I didn't mind that he did the first chapter, because I was like, if that happened to me, I would be like, you know, I had an amazing dream that's going to be an amazing story.
Inspiration came to me through a dream, which, again, I think that's everyone was... Like, everyone who has read this kind of feels the same way of, like... So, he wins, like, a bunch of awards for it. He submits it under his name.
They're like, oh my god, this is so fucking great.
This is great. It's going to be a big hit. Here, we'll serialize it. Absolutely. Good on you. And so he's like, that's fantastic. He spent a couple weeks just, like, you know, smoozing with editorials and all of this. And then, but he gets back to his apartment, and there's like 10 more copies of this future Jump, and he realizes, wait a minute, this wasn't all a dream at all. But, and again, to be fair to this guy, he's like, well, I can't copy the thing, like, I need to make up my own story. And he tries, but ultimately he's like, but nothing I do is as good. So he just keeps copying and copying and copying from this future mangaka who he doesn't know. He's just taking this idea and obviously showing it off as his own. And
this isn't like 100 years in the future or something. See, my thing from the start was like, I was like, this is 10 years in the future. So it's like, you are literally actively ruining the career of someone who is alive now, who like is gonna be alive in 10 years, and you're gonna be alive and still working in 10 years.
Well, that's the thing as well, is that, like, we find out that the actual author is this teenage girl, right? And she has all of her drafts from, like, the original, like, her first ideas. So she absolutely could argue that this is plagiarism of her work. Like, I don't know, it's just messy. Yeah. Anyway.
And literally, like, she gets introduced, like, and it's very obvious that it's, like, an attempt to, like, you know, cover over the fact that this story is about plagiarism.
Yeah.
Like, it's very clear, because she's, like, look, the original author, like, she shows up in the story, and she says it's okay. And I'm like, just because some kid who doesn't even realize what's really happening, you know, some minor, this underage teenage girl who doesn't know anything, like, says it's okay. And also, like, he's like, oh, it's actually time travel. I totally plagiarized your story from 10 years in the future. And she's like, that's not true. That's stupid. And it's like, why did he not immediately take her over to his place and be like, look at my freaky sci-fi microwave that, like, materializes Shonen Jumps from 10 years in the future? But no, he was just like, oh, well, I guess you're not gonna believe me, so I'm gonna keep ripping off your story.
I'm just gonna keep stealing from you. I hope you don't mind.
I guess she says it's okay.
and then, like, these future jump... I'm gonna spoil this series, I'm sorry, but nobody should read it, it's bad. One of these jump is like, oh, the series is on hiatus or has been cancelled because of the untimely death of the author.
The untimely death of the author.
And so he's like, oh no, this girl who I'm now kind of friends with, that I've been stealing from this whole time, she's gonna die. Maybe this is all a way for me to save her. And I was like, oh my god.
Yeah. And then, like, you can see the author, like, desperately trying to keep his series from getting, like, canceled because, like, suddenly, like, the fridge, the microwave fridge thing, has new rules because it suddenly starts talking to him. And it's like, actually, like, she worked herself to death, and, you need to, make this series, better than hers, so that you can save her life, because, if you don't beat her, she's gonna work herself to death. And I was like, in what universe does how does this make sense? Like, why are we not getting this girl therapy? You know?
Anyway, something happens. Time stops. He writes like 14 billion manga to become the best manga, make the best manga ever. And then time unstops, and then he shows it to her, and she's like, wow. And then it was the end of the series.
Yeah, and she's like, wow, I could never make anything as good as this. I'm gonna stop making manga. And that's like the heroic ending to the manga. It's like, well, she didn't work herself to death. And I'm like, what? I don't even, like, it's so bad that I can't even be offended.
It's like, it's almost as insidious as, like, Bakuman being like, girls can't have proper dreams. Only boys know how not to work themselves to death. And because also it's like, okay, but this guy stopped time and wrote like 14 billion stories. How is that like, not working himself like, to death?
1,000 years, like, working himself out of guilt for plagiarizing. I felt like I was reading the author's own guilt over making this awful series with this awful premise. It's just like, wow, what a inspirational story about this 30-year-old man just ruining the hopes and dreams of a literal child. Like, yeah. Incredible. I just, like, man, you'd think you could make any idea work if you just have the gumption, but sometimes you just have a real stinker of an idea. Anyway, so that's Time Paradox Ghostwriter. The thing about this is that art-wise and, like, the flow of the story-wise, it is competent. This artist is competent. So it wasn't, like, unreadable. I did get through 14 chapters. But, whoa, it was bad. It was so bad. It was so bad.
You got through 14 chapters, but at what cost?
But at what cost? It was kind of a fun train wreck, though, I'm not gonna lie. It just kept getting worse, and it was so transparent, like how desperate the author was. It was, yeah, what an experience. I don't regret it, maybe. The next one I do regret giving 3 chapters to, but, you know, as G well knows, as our dear listeners well know, I am willing to do a lot for my vampires. And I did read 3 entire chapters of Our Blood Oath, and it was bad. I don't actually have anything to say about this one. It just, like, it's trying to be like a horror vignette type of series, like, Phantom Tales of the Night is what it reminded me of, but if we're talking Shonen Jump App, something like the early chapters of, like, Phantom Seer. But it's bad. The art is ugly. The characters are bad. There's kind of a hint of some kind of Shotokan incest thing going on, which is not comfortable. And, it was bad. I don't have anything to add. There's just nothing good about it. It gets 1 star because of the simple void of anything worthwhile.
I haven't read any of this, so I will take your word for it.
Don't read it. The next one is about, like, you know, music. So I was like, I'll give it a shot, even though I thought that the art on the cover was so ugly. So I should have heeded, you know, my my eyes warning. But this is PPPPPP.
Yeah,
I read 3 chapters.
It has a quite, I don't want to say dedicated fan base. I know a couple people on Twitter who are quite, like, they do like it a lot. I just can't get over the art.
Good for them. I'm very happy for them. It's a 1 star for me. It's another one I just thought, the art is hideous, for one thing. So that was the main thing. But the other thing is, it just, like, it wasn't very competent storytelling. I didn't really get a good feel for any of the characters it was introducing to me, least of all the main character. I felt like I was being very manipulated by, like, all of the stupid drama in his life.
Yeah. Oh no. My mother is dying. Oh no.
My mother is dying.
Yeah.
She wants me to become a pianist, just like my sextuplet siblings. And they, you know, my dad abandoned me and my mom because I was bad at playing the piano.
Alas, I truly am the poorest child of them
all. And I've been taken in by my aunt or whatever, and her mean daughter or whatever. So I'm literally Cinderella.
Remember.
Again, there's nothing interesting to say about this one. I just found it incompetent. But if you like it, good for you. I did not find this series offensive, just incompetent. Now, the next one, on the other hand, I read 1 chapter of this, and that was too much. Okay, so I mentioned that I have read Rosario Vampire, which is, you know, it knows what it is. That is a series that very much knows what it is. And at the time I read it, I enjoyed it for what it was. I always kind of appreciated how much Mr. Akihisa Ikeda seems to appreciate hot guys as much as he appreciates hot girls. Well, almost as much as he appreciates hot girls. As a bisexual. and I like his art. I do like his art. So, I saw the cover for Ghost Reaper Girl, and I was like, there's a hot guy there, and there's a hot girl there, and I guess they fight ghosts. And I like Rosario Vampire well enough. So I gave it a shot, and oh my god, is there so much non-consensual touching in this chapter. In the premise, it's a very much like full on with the like possession equals sexual penetration thing. And nope. No sir. No sir. So yep. That's a 1 star from me. Next one. We have a shogi manga. This is Double Taisei. I read 3 chapters. Have you read any of this one?
I read all of this one.
Wow. How was that?
It's only 19 chapters, maybe.
Yeah.
You know, it hit that, like, 19 is the limit, and once you get past that, you know, it's sink or swim. It's it's a very confused mess.
It's
is
confusing.
What it is.
What is these, like, the twins with the different personalities in the day and the night, but then one of them disappeared, and, like, I don't know what either of their personalities is supposed to be, or, like, what either of their relationship to the game shogi is supposed to be.
So, it's... I don't know if they're actual twins. It's just, like, 2 personalities within the one guy.
Yeah.
And then at the end, because they're both, like, super good at shogi, but, like, the nighttime one can't play because, obviously, shogi competitions are in daytime. There's also, like, a whole bunch of, for lack of a better word, like, fucking JoJo villains throughout the course of the series. It's weird.
Yeah, it's like... Somebody read Hikaru no Go and liked it, you know. But it wasn't very good.
But then decided that it needed more JoJo villains.
And more JoJo villains, which, you know, I am not... I would say I prefer the more, like, realistic sports manga over the, like, superpowers ones, but I don't hate the superpowers ones.
Yeah.
You know? So, but this was not good. I didn't like it. Next one that I dropped, I don't remember anything about. This was Ayakashi Triangle. I read 1 chapter and it was boring. Then I read Mitama Security Spirit Busters, Chapter 1.
Oh.
This was the most unfunny trash. It was trying so hard to make me laugh and failing so miserably. I hated it.
That one lasted a while. That one got, like, I don't know, 35-something chapters?
Yeah.
I say a while, but, like, it for a terrible series that I expected to be cancelled immediately, it lasted.
Yeah, I mean, at, like, 7 to 8 chapters per volume, with 20-page chapters, you know, that's a good few volumes. But, you know, if you find this series hilarious and gut-bustingly funny, that is great. Again, nothing offensive here, it just was not funny. Beast Children, I just thought was boring, and I didn't like the art. I read chapter 1. I guess I don't care about rugby. So I feel like this could develop into, you know, it didn't get very far, but, you know, it could have developed into a competent sports manga if I'd read more, but I did not read more, so. And then the last one, this was, like, the only, like, gag grade that I gave, but again, this is another one that is competent. I did keep reading 6 chapters because I wanted to know what happened, and I found it entertaining. And I didn't even hate any of the characters other than the main dude, but I hated the main dude so much. And I hated the Pokemon vibes from this series. This did not get 1 star. It got, oh my god, this guy is so scary and definitely owns NFTs out of 5. And this is Neolation.
Oh, yeah, that's serious. I remember that one.
I read 6 chapters. I just feel like, for one thing, hackers are not cute anymore in 2022. And just, it was so try hard.
Yeah.
This kid with his, he's such a good hacker that they call him a wizard. And he has, like, his stupid jacket with its stupid wizard sleeves. And he's like, I'm Batman. I'm gonna be the badass, vigilante anti-hero cleaning the streets of all the other baddies. I'm gonna be the biggest baddie in town so that I can, like, keep all the other baddies in line. And I'm like, wait, but who decided that this kid gets to be the hero?
Who made you king?
Who decided that it's okay for this kid to invade everyone's privacy and, like, nobody else? Like, also, if you just, like, publicize all of the data from every Yakuza gang in the city, like, the economy would crash. He doesn't know that because all he knows is computer programming because he's 15 or whatever. But, like, kid, and I want to say this to every, like, Bitcoin bro out there as well. Like, the world is more than just computer programming. But yeah, so I, did not like this kid. Didn't like his attitude. Didn't like his tone. Didn't like that he kept hacking people's phones and figuring out where they live and, like, wiretapping their houses. So gross. So gross. If you're gonna do computer hacking, I want to leave it at the, like, Ocean's 11 where, like, tapping into the security cameras at a big casino for a heist. Like, I don't need, like, realistic hacking. I really don't. And I don't want my kids reading about it. Okay? Like, that's my list of 1 stars.
Solid list. Nothing, no notes from me. That's,
From here, we get into stuff that, was fine, mostly. I just didn't like it. 2 stars. There's a few of these. One of them's another one-shot, DC3 by the Promised Neverland people. This is about, like, a cyborg boy protecting, like, a girl. I feel like it was going for something zanier than it actually was. I just wanted it to be zanier. And I also thought that the cyborg boy was kind of creepy, so... That's fine. The next one I might actually read more of. This is the Hunters Guild, Red Hood.
Oh, yeah.
I read 7 chapters, so I got pretty far.
You're halfway through, pretty much.
Yeah. So I was like, I might finish it at some point. Have you read this one?
I have. I read all of it. I read it after it finished, because it was one that, like, a lot of people were talking about and hyping up and saying, like, oh, this is my favorite thing in Jump right now, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't like it that much. Like, it's fine, but even if I was reading it week to week, I don't think it would have been my favorite thing that was coming out. And it's got, like, an okay idea. It's fine. I think the ending is quite standout in just that it's very meta, but it's not like, it's probably not something I'd ever read again. It didn't leave that much of an impression on me personally.
Yeah, basically. It's another one where I felt like it's wearing its influences very much on its sleeve, with regards to these, like, dark, edgy fantasy type of series. The very tall, exaggerated figure of the heroine in particular was reminding me of, like, something from the Hellsing guy, or Dorohedoro, or something like that. But I just didn't think that... I mean, the werewolves are really goofy looking, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which I see what they're going for there, but I didn't think it was quite working for me personally. And I just didn't find the characters very standout. The art's kind of neat, though. Premise is kind of neat. Like I said, I might finish it, because it's pretty short. I see why people like it. But It was 2 stars for me. Next one is Bone Collection. I got through 6 chapters of this, because I really liked the art, was the main thing. I like the main girl, she's cute. I like the premise of, like, the main character has to, like, pull out a bone from her body every time that he has to, like, fight a demon or whatever. And once, like, all of her bones, all 208 of them or whatever, 206? How many bones are in the adult human body? Then, she will return to being a human, which is what she wants. So, like, each bone has its own special properties and is its own special kind of weapon. And, like, I thought that was interesting, but just all the comedy revolves around, like, very sexist, and, yeah, mostly that was the issue. I don't mind, like, crass humor. You'll definitely see that I do not mind crass humor when we get up towards the top of the list. But I do mind sexist humor, and there was a little too much of that for me here. But I enjoyed it enough to get through 6 chapters, but it was still 2 stars for me. Next we have Kubo Won't Let Me Be Invisible. I read 3 chapters of this. Feels like it's, in the vein of, like, those Don't Tease Me, Miss Nagatoro or whatever, which is not my genre, so I dropped this. Next one, Twinstar Exorcist, is one that is very long-running and very popular. It just wasn't for me, I guess. I didn't really like the 2 main characters very much. So I stopped. The next one is I Tell C. I read 9 chapters of this. And I was enjoying it quite a bit for the first few when it was still, like, episodic. But you could... This was another one. Yeah. You could really tell when the author was, again, just flailing around trying to see what would stick, because just kept adding plot on plot on plot. Each new development was, like, clearly there to be shocking, but it was exhausting. Yeah, interesting premise. Author did not know what to do with the premise. The art is also, like, just okay. There's some, like, weird proportional and, like, perspective issues with this that just suggest, like, an inexperienced artist to me. So that was 2 stars. These aren't as interesting as the 1-star ones, because it's, like, they're mostly just, like, not very good. I don't know. And this is the last one, is Guardian of the Witch. I read chapter 1, and it was weirdly sexist, so I dropped it.
Yeah. Having read that and the previous, you're not, like, none of these are... You're not missing out on the next greatest, shonen title. There's a reason they were dropped. And, as many fans as there are of a lot of these early, short-lived titles, there are reasons that they don't live to see too many chapters after 19.
Yep. So now we've gotten all of the negativity out of the way. 3 stars is where I start liking things, like, genuinely. Things that I will probably continue reading, where it's just, like, maybe it got off to a slightly slow start, or, I just, like, for whatever reason, I just didn't think it was 4-star worthy, but I'm like, this is solid, I like it, there's something here, right? So, The first one here is one that I read on Manga Plus, but as G pointed out to me, it is also on Shonen Jump. Hell Warden Higuma, which I only read one chapter of, but the aesthetic's neat. This is, about like a kid who has to return escaped ne'er-do-well souls who've escaped from hell and possessed people in the real world. He has to find them and kick their asses back to hell. I like things that have to do with Japanese hell. I think it's interesting. I like all the hands. The main character has all these little floating hands. Those are fun.
Yeah.
He's got a spooky cabin that's, very aesthetique. But yeah, I only read one chapter, so...
This is one that I followed from, not when it was first coming out, but I followed, I started reading it pretty soon after it started, and it was one that I jived with a lot. It's not, again, the best thing ever, and I can totally understand why it was only, the dozen or so chapters that it was, but I liked it. I liked it for what it was. So
I'll probably read the rest of the handful of chapters that it has. The next one is more ghosts. There's so many ghosts. so many ghosts. We have a one-shot. This is also from the Promised Neverland people, and it's called Spirit Photographer Saburo Kono. This is cute. I smiled. I don't really want to spoil how this one goes. But I would give it a read. It's I don't know, 50, 60 pages or something, and it's
it's a solid little...
It's nice. It's nice.
Yeah.
Next is the new Seraph of the End chapter. I like Seraph of the End. It is a dumpster that has been handcrafted for me. And boy, I was given new perspective on Seraph at the End reading all this 1 and 2 star stuff, because I was like, yep, that is certainly, it is more competent than any of this. But yeah, I won't say anything about it, because obviously I was reading that before, but the last couple chapters have been really gay, and that makes me so happy.
Brilliant.
It's great. Finally. Okay. Next one's interesting. This is Showa Shoten, the first 4 chapters. So I think this is a new one, right?
Yes.
This one's by Akinari Asakura and Takeshi Obata, so the art is by Obata. Very famous. Death Note, Bakuman, etc., etc. But working with a new author. Someone brought this up in questions, saying that the first chapter gave them Bakuman vibes, and same. Yeah. Chapter 1 gave me Bakuman vibes. It still gives me Bakuman vibes after 4 chapters, but I like it more than Bakuman so far. I do. I've been enjoying it. I like the glasses kid. I like the dynamic between the 2 main characters. They don't... the one kid's super smarmy, but it feels like that's more part of his character than with the writer kid from Bakuman, who's smarmy because he's legitimately positioned as, the smartest, most genius, big brain boy on the planet. In this case, he's, a child actor who became quite famous for the role that he had in, a long-running period drama when he was a kid, but now he's decided that he wants to be a comedian. Because he is incredibly charismatic on stage, great under pressure, and really good at ad-libbing. But he's got absolutely no sense for, the flow of a routine. He's not good at writing, and he's not interested in writing. So he needs someone to write his scenarios for him, and because comedy in Japan is typically 2 people, or more, he also needs a straight man to play off of. So he ends up finding this kid, just debilitatingly shy, right? But he really loves comedy, and he, like, always sends in responses to, like, the little caption prompts that they give you on, like, radio shows. And he's made a name for himself as, like, the funniest high schooler in his region, because he, like, ends up having his answer chosen, like, every day. But it's like, if you get him in front of people, he completely freezes up. He can't even get a word out. But his scenarios are good. They're funny. So it's like, you've got these two kids coming together. The one kid who's, like, way too cocky and has no idea how to write out a scenario for comedy, and is also really bad at, like, measuring timing in his head. And you get the other kid who, like, is going to have, you know, a much more standard arc of, like, coming out of his shell and figuring out how to talk on stage. Yeah, I don't know if it's going to turn super annoying like Bakuman, but so far it's not overwhelmingly sexist, and the scenarios that they've come up with are pretty funny. So,
that's good to know.
I enjoyed it.
I haven't had a chance to try this one yet, so that's always a positive to know that it's not horrendous.
Yeah, it's more so because of, like, the Hikaru no Go thing of, like, there just aren't many female characters. Like, none of the rival comedians that they've introduced have been women. The girl who's, like, sort of their classmate, she keeps showing up at all of the comedy clubs and everything because she's, like, a big comedy enthusiast. I think she's cool, but, like, she's not a comedian herself, so I'm more tolerant of that than I am, you know, being told to my face that, like, boys have dreams that girls just can't understand.
Yeah. Good gracious.
Yeah. I would, that's a soft recommend on that one. I'm looking forward to more. The next one is an interesting one. This is the new series from Sui Ishida, Chojin X, which I have read all the chapters that are out so far, which is 15. Have you read this one?
I've read the first 3 or so chapters. I didn't stop for any reason. Like, I am going to continue it at some point. It just fell kind of to the wayside for a little while. It's one I'll get back to. It's interesting.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. I am a big fan of Tokyo Ghoul. I like it a lot, especially the original series. Ri is a lot of problems. But I've always loved Ishida's art a lot. It continues to be excellent. He's an incredible artist. His assistants are all very talented as well. And I really like the concept of the main character, who's, like, Howard. Like, he sort of has this thing where it's like he's always sort of survived through school life by latching onto this more popular kid and sort of aping off of his popularity. And not really having any, like, drive of his own. He just kind of follows this kid. And then once he gets injected with the mysterious, like, superhuman serum, he manifests powers that are, like, his friend hypothesizes that it's related to, like, your biggest desire. And he ends up, like, turning into this freaky, like, vulture monster. Which I thought, like, wow, that's so, like, interesting and, like, depressing and fucked up and exactly what I want to see from Sui Ishida. You know?
Yeah.
And the friend is, like, he says, like, oh, I didn't turn into a superhuman, but he's, like, super squirrely about it, so it's like you end up, like, okay, but, like, what did you really turn into?
You know?
So, but, like, that almost has been, like, forgotten a little bit, because we've been introduced to, like, this Professor X style, like, superhuman school, and there's this little kid, little girl, who has, like, smoke powers, who is a much goofier character than, like, any of the other characters so far, so she's kind of an odd element to me. But seems to be the deuteragonist, so it's kind of like Voss, you know? I don't dislike her. I like her quite a bit, actually. But it's like, it does feel like this series is struggling to find itself a little bit. And it is the same struggle that kept bringing Tokyo Ghoul and especially Ri down, which is Sweet Ishida battling with himself over whether he wants to be Chainsaw Man guy or Inio Asano.
Yeah.
And I don't think that he's either of those creators. I think that what he's best at, what was always best in Tokyo Ghoul was, like, honestly, this is gonna sound, like, mean, but I mean it as a compliment. He's really good at being emo, you know? Like,
yeah.
Being, like, you know, very, like, depressing, gothic aesthetic, like, sad boy, like, people just, like, whining about their problems. Like, he's good at that. He's really, really, really good at that. All of the best parts of Tokyo Ghoul was, like, it was all just conversations between people, right? Like, very sad, broken people who turn into fucked up monsters because they're so depressed, you know? And when Tokyo Ghoul tried to get a little more, like, off the wall, it kind of lost itself a bit with the clowns and the more cosmic horror type of stuff. So it's kind of like, I can see what creators Sweet Ishida very much looks up to and likes. And I respect that because he has great taste. But I would like him to have more confidence in himself as a creator and the things that he is really good at. And Chojin X made me feel that way. So, 3 stars for now, but I'm looking forward to more. The vulture design looks cool.
It does.
Pretty sick.
It does.
The next one was a canceled series, I think. Yeah, canceled. This is, because it suddenly had an epilogue right at the end. So I was like, canceled. But this was, Neru, Way of the Martial Artist. I liked it. I like that it's about, like, more martial arts as, like, an art form and as a cultural thing than, like, you know, very strictly, like, this is how you participate in a tournament, and, like, these are the different kinds and stuff. It's more like, what are these things, like, philosophically and, like, artistically. And I thought it was neat. I enjoyed it. I liked the art, too.
This is one that I started again as it came out. I think it was maybe it was the first chapter was out. And I jived with the art. It's really nice. And it's got a solid little story, and it is one of those series that I feel sad that it did get cancelled, because unfortunately when series do get cancelled, they're like, well, we just have to wrap everything up now, bye, and you're like, okay. Like, it obviously cut short all of the potential of what that story probably was going to be. And so it's one, like, this had the potential to be something really, really good. Unfortunately, it just didn't have that time to be really, really good. I also liked the female characters in this one. They're not focused on as much, but I did like them. And it ended with an epilogue that, like, was thought out enough where I was like, oh, this creator, like, had plans for every single one of these people. Yeah. I hope that
Sad
this
face.
creator comes back with something maybe a little longer lived, because I'd like to see where they go from here.
The next one's interesting because I know that G really loves this series, having finished it. I have only read the first 10 chapters, so it has 3 stars for the first 10 chapters, but given that me and G share 80% of the same brain, I probably will enjoy this more as I get further and start figuring out what Mr. Tatsuki Fujimoto is trying to tell me in Fire Punch.
Yay! the most polarizing manga around.
Yep. Oh man. Oh my god.
I every time I cannot mention this series without saying, guys, preemptive content warning for literally everything.
Everything.
Like everything.
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 Everything. Oh my god, the first chapter is premised on cannibalism and incest, and that is child's play. That's nothing.
Yep. Yeah. you ain't seen nothing yet. No, see, that's, and I've said this before in regards to all of Fujimoto's work, but especially Fire Punch, is that it's very in your face, like, this, we're gonna throw every controversial thing at the wall, like, it's just absolutely going to make some people reel back aghast in horror. But if you can survive all of that, if you can get through, if you can deal with it, there's some of the most interesting and kind and intuitive writing, character writing, around in all of his series, but Fire Punch as well. It's similar to what you were saying about Ishida, is that his strengths are being emo, like characters talking to each other, conversations. There's a lot of that, just very well thought out, realistic conversations between characters that, although, you know, all of these settings, but Fire Punch setting as well, is just like the most horrific future imaginable.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Right? It's so,
I swear to God,
horrifying.
like, they introduce the little boy and the girl that he's with, and they get like bought up by this guy who's like, oh, I'm so nice, we're gonna get along just fine, look at all my cute dogs. And I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
And that went exactly where I thought it was gonna go. And I'm not happy about it.
No. See, that's the thing, is that these are the worst worlds imaginovable. Both Fire Punch and Chainsaw Man. Just the worst settings you could be in.
Horrible.
There, you wouldn't. Everyone's like, which manga would you want to live in? Not anything from Fujimoto. Do not live in his worlds. But because of that, and so his characters make terrible decisions, or they do just abhorrent things, and terrible shit's happening all of the time. But you can understand, like, there's so much into nuance to these characters in understanding them as people, as to, like, you survive the worst shit in the world, you end up, hopefully, like, getting through that or surviving that and still staying mostly a good person or an understanding person, or you still have that part of hope, is a really powerful thing, and I think that's what he's so good at.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe, maybe not the guy. Hopefully you don't end up doing things to dogs that this man does. I mean, I get it with the other characters, though.
Well, the villain characters are there to just be fodder, right? They're there to be killed because they're terrible. Yeah. They get their just rewards. But speaking in terms of protagonists, these are people who fight for their own survival. There's so much more understanding. Plus, I think I've said it, Fujimoto really is like very much, I think, a fan of schlocky, like, monster movies and disaster movies. It's very evident in all of his stuff, and I kind of just love him for that. I'm so happy he embraces it.
Yeah, and we will get into that in more detail further up my list, but certainly reading Fire Punch, my overwhelming impression is that Tatsuki Fujimoto really likes Mad Max. But also, like, two things I wanted to add just based on the 10 chapters that I've read, is that he's set up a very strong central metaphor, with the main character who, is, like, he's literally on fire all the time. That's his thing. Like, he has regenerative abilities like Wolverine. So it's similar to Wolverine, where, like, his power that he has is not, like, the claws. It's the regenerative ability that allows him to use the claws. In this case, the guy that attacked him has the power of, like, fire that does not go out until what it is burning has been destroyed. But because this main character has such strong regenerative abilities, the fire just never goes out. He's just constantly on fire.
In excruciating pain.
He's just always in pain. Like, he's learned to distract himself from it somewhat, but, like...
It took him 10 years to even, like, be able to think.
Walk around. Oh my gosh. Hardcore, man. Fucking metal as hell.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's his thing. He's on fire all the time. But there is already, like, so much setup of, like, and you know, the fire there's setup of the fire representing both, like, his desire for revenge and his hatred of this person who has destroyed his village and destroyed his sister, and his hatred of just the world and how shitty it is, and the ice witch that's created it. This is a frozen wasteland, that's the whole thing. But there's also the side of, like, the fire representing his connection to his sister and to the village, and, you know, the fact that for him he's in excruciating pain, but we get, like, this kid who's traveling with him who clearly represents, you know, like, innocence and everything. Who's like, oh, let me follow you because you're so warm. So there is, like, this very clear, like, double-sided metaphor being set up, and it's being set up very skillfully. I'm not sure yet where it's going to be going, but somewhere, I presume.
Yeah, it's
good metaphor.
It's a ride, and it's hopefully one that you enjoy more than dislike.
I have a pretty strong stomach, so... And then the other thing I wanted to mention was that there's a lot going on here with regards to religion and spirituality. The people in this world live in a frozen wasteland, so they worship fire. Yeah, that's been set up very interestingly as well from a lot of different perspectives, and I'm not entirely sure yet what he's going to be saying about it. I mean, I can make some guesses, but why bother? Because I'm going to finish this series, and then I will have a much more fully formed opinion about it, so... Also, Fujimoto's art is good.
Yeah, I think we'll talk a little bit more about it as we talk about more of his other series as well, but it's very cinematic. Like, it feels like you're watching a movie sometimes with how he draws. And again, I think that's part of his just typical aesthetic and interest in movies. It feels very much like you could, despite all of the terrible themes and happenings within these series, they could very easily become films or shows or whatever else. It feels, especially as action stuff, is very, very easy to follow.
It is, yeah. Especially once we get, further up the list. I'll talk about it more, because I do feel like Fire Punch is rougher than his more recent stuff.
As the first of his works, it's it's the one with the most growing pains.
I will also say that this is something that I also like about Sweet Ishida's artwork, but he is very good at drawing very complex, messy facial expressions. Yeah, he's good at that, and so is Ishida. Two creators I am a fan of. Next we have, on the opposite end of the spectrum from Fire Punch. Literally, like, because Fire Punch is about, like, a dude who's always on fire, and this one's about a penguin. The Emperor and I read 5 chapters. It's full color, and each chapter is, like, 12 pages. I don't know if I'll read more, because, I mean, I kind of got the gist. It was cute. It was cute. The penguin's cute. It's not, like, haha funny. Like, it feels like the series doesn't quite know how much it wants to personify or anthropomorphize its penguin. It's like, pick a side, right? Like, either go full, like, anthropomorphization and derive your humor and cuteness from that, or just go, like, grossly close to nature and derive your cuteness from that, right? Which I think, like, the cutest jokes have been when it decides to give us some cute penguin facts. So, like, the high school girl who, like, has this penguin, it just, like, showed up in her refrigerator one day. She feels really happy that it's taking to her because it follows her around everywhere. But then she realizes that it just follows everyone in her family around everywhere. And then she realizes that it's because emperor penguins instinctually follow other penguins. Or, like, she gets the penguin into, like, Pingu cartoons. She keeps showing it Pingu cartoons. And he seems to like it. So she gets him a little Pingu doll to play with as a toy. And he likes it so much, he starts, like, sitting on it everywhere that he goes. Because it's his little baby. It's his little egg. Is this little Pingu doll. So that was cute. That's all. The next one that I read that was 3 stars was The Elusive Samurai. Chapters 1 to 10 by Yusei Matsui, who is the creator of Assassination Classroom. You read this one?
I've read 3 chapters of it, not a whole bunch. Again, not for any particular reason. It's not, like, my favorite, so I'm just like, I'll catch up on it when I have nothing else to read.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I don't know if I'll continue with this one, but I did enjoy it enough for 3 stars. I kind of like Matsui's oddball sense of humor. It's very meta. I liked it in Ass Class. I like it here. Ass Class is another one where I'm like, I read a little bit of it and I got bored and stopped reading it, so I have a feeling this will be similar, but I do like the historical setting here. This is historical fiction about a real historical figure from the Kamakura period. A lot of the characters who appear are people who existed, but obviously, being the Ass Class guy and being a Shonen Jump manga, it is a very loose take on historical events. The most recent chapter I read, I think, introduced, like, supernatural elements, which I wasn't super keen on. So, yeah, we'll see. But I kind of enjoyed the central premise of, like, a character whose, like, strength is that he's really good at running away. I think that's kind of cute. And I like the Kamakura era, you know. Like, you know. I like Japanese history. Recently, I've been into, like, historical fiction, Japanese historical fiction, because I've been watching a lot of musicals that are set in Japanese historical periods. So, that more than likely influenced my enjoyment, but...
I find it interesting that because this is one that is going strong. It's quite well liked on the Japanese side, and I think pretty well received on the English side. I don't know whether it's more well received on the Japanese side just because of familiarity of the historical period and person who this character is based off of. But it's curious considering how different because this creator, this mangaka, has had 3 really, really popular series or 2 previous very popular series in Jump, this being his 3rd, and they're all very different setting-wise. I don't necessarily know thematically, but they're all very different settings and genres, which, I mean, is a testament to his adaptability, if nothing else. I will be interesting to see how well this one does in the English market compared to Ass Class, because obviously Ass Class has less of a prerequisite historical knowledge needed. But yeah, I mean, either way, it's cool to see creators come back with new ideas and interesting things.
I think it's interesting you point that out, that all of his series are so different, because I think something that might be the key to his success is that I think he's targeting the same age range with each series. Because I can say that my 6th graders learn about a lot of the figures who are present in the Elusive Samurai, and I think that 12 to 13 range is very much the sweet spot for this series. Its sense of humor, its, the age of the protagonist, that kind of thing. The things the series finds cool, right? So, I wonder if it's not that, just that Yusei Matsui is, really good at writing towards upper elementary school kids specifically. There's 2 more that I gave 3 stars to. I read so much.
You did. You really put in the hard work. I feel bad just sitting back and listening.
Sorry that I'm talking so much. Next one I only read chapter 1 of this because the chapters are quite long, and I basically just resolved to read more later. This one has an anime. This is Moriarty the Patriot. I liked the first chapter because it was very much like Eat the Rich.
Yep.
The main character, Moriarty from Sherlock Holmes, just like as a child being like trying to spark a proletariat revolution. And I was down. I was so down. The art looks very much like something from G Fantasy as opposed to Shonen Jump. Which, you know what? Good. I am the target audience for that style, so...
Yeah, this is one that, it's not like a pure Jump title. This isn't from Shonen Jump magazine in Japan. This is one of Shueisha's other myriad titles. It's one that Viz puts out under their Shonen Jump title, or imprint. So, yeah, longer chapters, yada yada. This is one, I've read all of, I think there's 15 or 19 chapters.
19, I think.
Yeah, available from Viz through this service.
Like the first 5 volumes, I think.
Yeah. This one, confession here, I am a longtime murder mystery and mystery fan, always have been. So I grew up with a lot of Sherlock Holmes and, other various mystery works.
Fun fact about G, if you ever want, serial murder facts, she's your girl.
I grew up on Christie and Doyle and a whole bunch of stuff, but so this was one that directly appealed to me as well. It's one that has a really strong start. Following chapters are also good. I find some of the supporting cast, i.e. like Holmes and Watson and bond as well. Like, there's a lot of characters here that I'm like, alright. I'd be more interested if it just focused on Moriarty and his brothers, his biological brother and his adoptive brother. I find them more interesting, just typically, but there's a lot to like with this series, but it's one of those series that's like kind of just a guilty pleasure. Like, I wouldn't inherently recommend this to everyone. I haven't seen the show, so I don't know like how that it adapts it or anything, but you know, it's fun for what it is. If you want to see what is ostensibly a villain in the Holmes novels as the hero, like with a new tilt of like, oh yes, I want to bring down this classist society, which honestly, go for it, babe.
Like, I support him so much.
Hell yeah. Then it's a fun time. It's exactly what is on the box, right? Yeah,
I heard it's dumb, but I've only read one chapter, so the guys are hot. They're hot. That's nice.
Yeah.
I think Takarazuka should adapt it. I think that would be good. I think it would fit their aesthetic. Okay, so my last 3-star title is one that I am going to be finishing. This is one of the, like, not Shonen Jump, but, like, one of Shueisha's titles. I don't know. I read the equivalent of 1 volume, which in this case was 4 chapters. They are longer chapters. This was Seventh Garden by Mitsu Izumi, which is sort of a dark fantasy about a gardener named Awin, who, like, I don't know, he came from a good family, right? But then, like, his family got, like, assassinated by the church, like, called demons or whatever. I've only read the first volume, so, like, the details of that are still simmering under the surface, but, like, after that, he, like, you know, managed to escape, and he got taken in by a kindly noblewoman named Marie as her gardener. And, like, he's been sort of living on the DL ever since, being a very, like, sweet, kind-hearted gardener who harbors just under the surface this fury, this rage and desire for revenge against the church. Which is called, like, it's basically, like, the church in this fantasy world is basically called, like, Schmistianity. Like, it's Christianity, right? And, the knights are crusaders who, like, go around the land, like, arbitrarily terrorizing people in the name of the church and the Pope. This series does not like organized religion very much. If you haven't been getting that vibe, it's not subtle. But yeah, the gardener dude ends up attracting a demon, like a sexy demon lady, who makes contract with him in order to, he wants to protect the town from the evil Crusader Knights who keep trying to flatten it, for arbitrary reasons. And the demon lady wants him as her minion in order to take down the 6 angels that run this sort of central theocracy of this land. And we learn very early on that the demon and the angels are one and the same type of organism, and I think they are probably aliens. That seems to be the direction this is going. That's my guess, based on the first volume. So it's like Seraph at the end. But yeah, the main reason that I'm interested in this series, other than that the demon girl is cute, Gardener Boy is cute, too. We've got two cute protagonists, which is very important to me. Everyone's got balloon tits, though, which is very funny to me. Because I know, for a fact, that Mitsu Izumi knows how to draw women. Which brings me to why I'm interested in this series, which is that I love Magus of the Library. I love it a lot, and I'm interested in reading his earlier work, which this is. So that is why I'm going to be reading the whole thing. It was solid. It was, the action is incredibly difficult to follow. So it's interesting kind of seeing how much he's grown in that regard, because I find Magus of the Library's action incredibly easy to follow. So, that's interesting. But I will be continuing with that one. Have you read any of that?
I haven't read any of that. Also, I think that Izumi is a lady.
Okay.
But, yeah. No, I haven't read it. I know it's been on hiatus forever. So, I don't know why it's been on hiatus forever. Maybe because she was focusing on her other stuff. But it's one that, if it sounds like, obviously you enjoyed enough of it so far, I'll check it out. It's
solid. I didn't know she was a lady, but now I do. It doesn't change the balloon tits, though. Or the fact that I know that she does know how to draw women, because she draws them fairly normally in Magus of the Library. Alright. Are we ready to keep up?
Yes, let's go. 4 stars. I'm excited.
4 stars. And all of these, except for one, are series that... Oh, two. 2 tragic losses. The rest are all still current. Let's do the tragic losses first. One of them is not going to surprise anybody at all, given how big of a fan of Blue Flag I am. Cross-manage. I read the first 10 chapters, so I will be continuing with this one. It's a lacrosse manga by Kaito, the creator of Blue Flag. I know that it comes to a tragically quick conclusion, because unfortunately this one was cancelled. I mean, I enjoyed the first 10 chapters for basically the same reason that I enjoy Blue Flag, which is I love Kaito's art. It's very expressive. I will say some of the character designs of some of the side girls are unfortunate in this one, which makes me sad, especially, like, as a fat person myself. It's like, maybe you could try a little harder when you're drawing fat girls, Kaito. Other than that, I really enjoyed the art a lot. I enjoyed it, like, also just seeing, like, how much Kaito has grown as a draftsman. I don't know anything about lacrosse, so it's like, and having binged the first chapters of, like, so many sports manga, I have come to really respect the ability to concisely explain the rules of your sport and what makes it unique and exciting. And I found that Kaito was able to do that with lacrosse. I was like, okay, I think I understand how lacrosse works in the most basic sense. And I also think I understand what makes it cool. You know? Congratulations, Kaito. You've made a satisfactory sports series. Kaito seems to like the injured sportsman thing, huh? So this is a plot point in Blue Flag as well. But basically, Cross Manage is about a dude who used to be, like, big soccer boy, but he injured his knee and was told that he'd never play soccer again. And at this point, he's kind of lost all of his passion for the sport, even though, like, it's possible that, like, he could go back to it. Like, his knee may have healed enough, but it's like he would never go as far as he would have, right? He's totally discouraged with it, and he's convinced himself, you know, I'm never gonna put my all into sports again. But he ends up running into this girl who turns out to be the captain of the lacrosse team, who absolutely just sucks ass at lacrosse. He runs into her practicing, and he's like, alright, I don't really know much about lacrosse, but, like, there's some crossover in the rules to, like, soccer, so maybe, you know, you should do this, and, like, she manages to, you know, do some small thing that she hadn't been able to before, and she's like, hey, you're actually really good at, like, coaching?
Mm-hmm.
She is determined from that point to make him the manager of the lacrosse team. And at first he's resistant, but, you know, he gets worn down eventually and does become the manager of the lacrosse team. You know, becomes an expert on lacrosse overnight because, you know, he gets the motivation to, like, really want to see these girls improve and everything. It's a very typical, like, sports manga setup, right? It's, you know, if you've watched Bamboo Blade, you've seen this exact plot. But, you know, I like the main girl. I like the main guy a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I like the angle of learning how to manage a team and how to coach a team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it, so looking forward to more.
I like this one a lot. Having read all of it, I also really appreciated that despite being a shonen manga, it's a girls' team, like it's a female team. So there's a lot, despite some pretty iffy character design choices, it does have a lot of female characters. Not all of them get a lot of screen time, mainly because it is such a short series, but the ones that do definitely have pretty standout personalities. I like the guy as well. I like his friends. Like, they don't show up much, but they're decent little
they're good
contribution. I liked the rival character. She's decent. There's a lot of really good solid ideas here. It's one that, again, you can tell is an earlier work, but it's one that I think is well worth the read if you have the time for it.
And much like Seventh Garden, I think that this one is interesting as an earlier work from a creator of one of my favorite series. Because it's like you can see, like, the seeds of some of the things that I think were so masterful in Blue Flag, and, like, seeing where Kaito has really improved upon their own strengths is very interesting. And then the other one that has been tragically canceled is another one that I know G likes quite a bit, which is Phantom Seer.
Oh, my poor
Your poor baby. I read the first 10 chapters of this one as well. I think I'm right at the point of a transition. It starts off kind of episodic horror, along the lines of, like, Phantom Tales of the Night or Holic, but it seems to be going in a more, like, what's a good example? Kekkaishi or, like, Blue Exorcist type of direction, with more of, like, introducing more of the, like, fighting system. The main girl, who starts off as, like, someone who's attracts spirits and so has to be protected by the main guy, to someone who is like, I want to learn this fighting system too. I want to be a shaman, which is what the demon fighters or the ghost fighters are. You know, we get sort of the teacher figures, we get the school building and everything. So it's, and like classmates and everything. So it's like pretty clear kind of that this marks a shift a bit in genre. I have enjoyed both sides of Phantom Seer. I like all the characters that have been introduced so far. Fox Dude, the sister, the glasses boy. Tengu boy.
Yeah.
I love his little Tengu. They're cute.
They are. The transition that you're mentioning is also very indicative of, like, the introduction of more of an overarching plot, which, again, a lot of these series, even the short-lived ones, like, they set up their world, but then they introduce, it might take a little while, i.e. 10 chapters or so, to really introduce the main villain, quote-unquote, and so you see a bit of that afterwards. Because it is so short, it's wrapped up. Well, the villain stuff isn't inherently wrapped up, but the characters, our main character and the girl as well, they have kind of a largish character resolution,
That's good.
which is good. It's a solid ending for something that was cut so tragically short. Like, I don't think you could have done much better with the time.
Such a G-core series.
I told
Just
you
peak,
it was.
Peak G-core. Yeah, it's nice. I like it. I like the art a lot as well.
Mm-hmm.
Solid monster designs. I like the mirror monster. That was cool. I like the little Tengu balls. They're cute. But yeah, I'll finish that one for sure. And yeah, those are the ones that are over. The rest of my 4 and 5 stars are either complete on purpose, where they're supposed to be complete.
they
or
reach their
are
natural
currently
conclusion.
ongoing. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. The first of these is Kaiju number 8. I read the first 10 chapters of this. It is very long. This was one of the first ones I read, and I enjoyed it quite a lot. It is propaganda, which is annoying, but love the police. The super police who take care of super problems. The main character, I like him a lot. Basically, this is a world that is constantly attacked by kaiju, like in Pacific Rim, and the super police have to take care of the kaiju. And after the kaiju are taken care of, we are left with a huge, slimy, disgusting, poisonous corpse over a huge several blocks of the city, right? So we start with this main character who is, he wanted to be one of the super police, but was never able to, pass the exam, and at this point has more or less settled into a disappointing life as cleanup crew. Always constantly having to watch on the news his childhood friend, who he made a childhood promise to, that they would be super police together, but she has made it, and he has not. So he's stuck, getting covered in kaiju shit, cleaning up the intestines, right? So that's where we start, and then we quickly get our sort of sidekick, I guess. The other dude who's, younger. This is a very One Punch Man setup, where you have, the older, very jaded, dude, and then the younger, here to set the world on fire, college student type of character. That's very much the dynamic here as well. We get the young, early 20-something, or late teen, I don't remember, dude who wants to use being in the cleanup crew essentially as, internship experience, right? To put on his application for being in the super police. And he is just absolutely appalled that this main character dude has given up on his dream of being in the super police. And he's I can't believe that you would give up on this. You're such a disappointment, old man. And of course, has the whole, heartwarming turnaround when he realizes just how good of a guy the main character is. But also, during all of this heartwarming stuff, the main dude gets, little kaiju, maggot infests his body and turns him into, a parasite, turns him into a kaiju, which I think you can see on the cover of Volume 1, what he looks like. But he can still appear as his human self, but that is no longer his true form. He is a kaiju, 100%. I laughed so fucking hard when he, pissed out of his nipples. Just constantly finding out new, weird, horrifying things about this new body of his. But obviously, if the super police find out that he's a kaiju, they're going to, arrest him and use him in experiments. Or, murder him dead. But also, he's had his passion for becoming one of the super police rekindled by this youngin' and the girl. So he ends up, taking the exam to become a super police, and ends up, very barely making it as, like, an apprentice or something, and it kind of goes from there. And that's where I'm at, is, like, he's just kind of made it into the super police and is trying not to get found out as a kaiju. And his little sidekick dude is trying to help him not get found out as a kaiju.
Yeah, it's a solid one. This is a series from Jump Plus. I like the magazine Jump Plus, or the digital magazine, I should say. So it's one that comes out bi-weekly, or it comes out, every 2 weeks, but then every third time it's just an illustration. It just allows a lot of authors to actually have a life, or reset a bit. This is one that's been very popular since day one, for very good reason. It's solid, it's fun, it's got a pretty fun premise and a pretty interesting cast of characters. I haven't read too much more than you have, Ray, just because, again, this is one that's been on the back burner for a little bit, but it's a good time. And it didn't surprise me at all when Viz announced the print edition for this one, because it's one that definitely appeals to a lot of people, I think. And also it's just nice, and this is something you see a lot with very recent Jump titles, is like a older protagonist. I think it appeals to a lot more English manga readers. Who aren't necessarily within, like, the 10 to 12 range, or 8 to 12 range that Jump. Watching or reading a series about 30s millennial in a shitty job, like, trying to just make things work, is like, okay, I understand this.
Yeah, for sure. That was what I liked about it. I mean, I liked other things about it also, but... I like the main dude. I like him a lot. Yeah, he's, like, older and jaded, but then he's also, like, very kind. So that hits a sweet spot for me, I think. And I'm looking forward to reading more of this. This is one that I see myself probably, like, binging to catch up on. It was a very fast 10 chapters, but I had to move on to more things. The next one is another one that I know that you are a fan of, which is Blue Box. I read chapters 1 to 10 of this one. This is like a romance, drama, sports type of series about a badminton boy and a basketball girl who end up, I think, like, her parents are overseas or something, so she ends up living with him because friend of the family, which, obviously there's, like, the awkward, like, oh my god, there's a girl in my house, but, like, it's not, I do appreciate that it doesn't go for the, like, him waking up with, like, her boobs on his crotch or something. Like, it's walking in on her naked constantly, oops, it's not like...
The thing is, like, it's established that she is his crush. Like, he's had a crush on this girl for a while.
Yeah.
He likes her. But it just aside, instead of going for that more kind of nisekoi, like, oh, well, like, I'm gonna fall over and end up in somebody's boobs, it's more like, oh god, the girl that I like lives with me, I have to be on my best behavior, like, this is really awkward, oh god, I don't wanna look like a dweeb in front of her, and I'm like, what a good
it's so cute, it's so wholesome. And, like, obviously she's, like, interested in him, too, and going through the same thing of, like, like, oh my gosh, I want him to think that I'm cool. I think she's, like, the upperclassman, too, so she's, like, trying to be a senpai, It's so cute. I thought it was cute how, like, he was super shy about, like, seeing her, like, I don't know, like, her bra, or, like, in a tank top or something. But then the chapter, like, ends with, like, her getting all blushy, seeing, like, him without his shirt on, and he's like, maybe we're dealing with the same things,
Yeah.
And it's like, yes, okay, like, teenage girls are horny, too.
So I also really, like, this is this is a series that is so sweet, it's so lovely, but it's also really funny. Like, it does this comedy quite well. I don't know if it's in the chapters that you've read so far, but there's a joke where he forgets his school or his sports uniform, or he takes hers by accident. He ends up with her jacket, right? Her sports jacket, which has her name on it. So he's like, oh god, I'm at school, like, no one can, I don't want people to see me wearing her jacket, because then people will be like, oh, what's going on? Why do you have her jacket? Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, his friend, like the gymnast, his friend, classmate.
The gymnast girl.
Yeah, she's like, oh, you dropped your jacket. And he's like, oh, don't touch it. And she's like, it's fine. And he's like, no, I haven't washed it in a year. And
I haven't washed it ever.
Ever. And she's like, oh my god, get out. Like, that is disgusting.
And she's like, and then she's like, wait, but I've seen you wear that for badminton practice. And he's like, yeah, I wear it to badminton practice and I never wash it.
And she's just like, oh god.
Get out.
Get out. Why are we friends?
It's the commitment for me. It's the commitment. Yeah, it's good. The art's good too. Like, it's really cute art. Really down to earth character designs. I also like that, it does focus on, like, because, like, club activities is such a big part of, like, kids' lives in Japan, in high school. I do appreciate that, like, they both have, like, their goals that they're going for in their respective sports. I like that part of what they're attracted to in each other is that they are both so driven in their own sports. It's just very sweet. I'm enjoying that one.
It doesn't feel like a Jump title. This is one that's in the Jump magazine. It doesn't feel like a typical Jump title, which is not a bad thing, inherently.
Yeah.
It just feels a little bit out of place for its, I guess, genre, compared to what you normally see as, like, a romantic drama when it comes to Jump. Not that you get too many of those in Jump anyway, but...
This isn't, like, We Never Learn or Quintessential Quintuplets or anything. Not least of all because it's not a harem, but... The thing I would compare it the most to in vibe is Blue Flag. But of course that's a Shonen Jump Plus title, so...
That's the one I always compare it to, or always make the comparison with.
The next one is another one that I know that you are a fan of, that is quite different from Blue Box. It is about a boy and a girl in high school. This is Dan Da Dan. The first 10 chapters. This has been a blast. Oh my gosh, I laugh so hard. All the time.
I love this series so much. I love it so much.
Oh my gosh. I knew I was gonna love this series from, like, the first few pages, where it's like, okay, so it's about, this girl who's, like, she's kind of popular, right?
She's not unpopular. She's just, like, she's got friends. She's quite well-liked.
Yeah. She's quite well-liked, right? People in her class know her name, right? But she's got this quirky side to her where she's super obsessed with, like, paranormal stuff. Her grandmother is a medium, and so she grew up with, like, ghosts and, like, mediums and psychics and stuff, so that's, like, her jam. And then we also have this boy, who is this just, like, super bummer of, like, a little glasses nerd. No friends, and his thing is that he is so obsessed with aliens. And they have this weird, like, intersection there where it's like he really wants to meet an alien because, like, he's lonely and he's never been understood by his peers, so he feels like, well, maybe an alien from another planet would be my friend. And the girl is like, she really wants to, like, she wants to meet a ghost, right? It's like...
Well, she knows that she's like, they're absolutely real because of
Yeah.
her upbringing and all of that. But they're kind of at odds because he's like, there's no way that ghosts are real. And then she's like, well, there's no way that aliens are real. And so
yeah. And so they, she sticks up for him, when he's being bullied. And, that doesn't mean anything to her, but it means a whole lot to him. Stuff happens, and they end up, realizing, getting in a big fight because, she's like, you're so stupid for thinking that aliens are real. They're not real. And he's like, you're stupid for thinking that ghosts are real. Ghosts are stupid and not real, not like aliens, which are super real. So they make, a bet with each other that, she's gonna have him go to, a haunted location. And he's gonna have her go to a location with a lot of, UFO sightings. And so they do that, and they're, connected on the phone, right? And, of course, what ends up happening is that he encounters a scary ghost, and she gets abducted by aliens. And it turns out they're both real.
Oops, they're both real.
They're both real. But, so when he, goes into this scary haunted train tunnel, he comes across this, scary-looking, yokai granny, and, he looks at her, and she looks at him, and she goes, I'll let you suckle my teats if you let me gobble your schlong. And I laughed for, 5 minutes.
Yeah, this one is one that, if you don't like crass humor, you're probably not gonna like it because there's
not
a
at
lot
all.
of it.
There's so much.
But it's so good. It's so funny and so well done. And I think it's really important to have it when in counterbalance to some of the pretty horrific and scary shit that happens as well. So
yeah, those aliens are so scary.
They are horrifying.
I laugh a lot. I just because what she does is she literally she possesses him and curses him and literally gobbles his schlong. She takes his dick from him and he just doesn't have one anymore. And then later on he gets it back, but then he gets his balls taken from him.
Exactly.
And then when he goes to tell the girl and her grandma, he's like, okay, I got my thing back, but now I don't have any balls. And they just start laughing so
They're
hard.
how did you not notice? How did you not notice that? It's I was kind of preoccupied
They're your balls.
That poor kid.
Yeah. Oh man.
He really
That's a whole new level of down
straw.
bad.
Yeah, he draws the short straw a lot, unfortunately. Well, no, I love this series. It's so funny. It's also really, the more you read, obviously these two become closer friends, and, whatever. And their friendship relationship, maybe something more, is really sweet to watch. I also, the other funny thing is that this girl, she has this crush on, a really manly actor.
Oh, okay.
And
yeah, that's right. So she's really into Takakura Ken, who's this really, he's the Japanese, manly Yakuza actor, right?
Uh-huh.
Vintage style, right? He's old
actor.
now.
She loves
him so much.
I just want to find my Ken,
my Takakura Ken.
That's my biggest dream. That's my dream man. And of course,
the punchline is that eventually she's like, "Hey nerd, what's your name?" And he's like, "It's Takakura Ken." And she punches him in the face because she's like, "No, you are not allowed to have that name." Rejected. I really love both of these characters. I think that this is another one. So this is a former assistant of Fujimoto, Tatsuki Fujimoto, the Chainsaw Man guy. So it does have that, like, very, again, the crass humor, the extreme hyper-violence, and very strange monsters. And, like, the other thing that I really like about it is, yeah, like, this central friendship between these two lonely people is very sweet. Like, they're both looking for something in each other, and it's cute. It's cute, but it's weird. It's not stereotypical at all. These aren't characters that I've seen elsewhere, you know? Even if they do fit into, like, you know, the sort of punk girl and the nerd boy. It's like, they're very different from anyone I've ever encountered.
I also really like, just because you mentioned how there's like a lot of it's hyper violent, there's a lot of bizarre monsters. It does when it gets scary. Like, legitimately, you feel like these kids are in a bad situation when bad things are happening. The stakes feel really high, despite being like, this is a Jump title, so it's not like they're going to die inherently, but it's like, wow, I can understand why they are fighting for their lives with this. This is not a good time.
I will say, the threat of sexual violence looms more often than I would like, but in general, something I like about this series is that although it is heavily reliant on very crass, often sexual humor, it's not lazy about it, and it's not sexist about it. More often than not, it's just weird, right?
Also, like, for as much as these kids get naked, it doesn't, like, it's not sexualized.
Yeah, it's not like, you know, her butt, like, you know, right up against the camera, like, you know, covered in sweat. I don't know. She's naked. He's naked, right? It's very matter of fact.
There's a very, desexed kind of feeling to it. And it doesn't feel like fan service either. It's not like, ooh, we're peeking up this character's skirt. It's like, nah, I don't know. There's a lot of jumping around and clothes flying and nudity, but it never feels like I'm meant to be ogling teenagers.
Yeah, not at all. I do feel like I am meant to be the teenage reader, feeling like I definitely want this girl to step on me, but that's okay. You know, that's another thing I'm grateful to Tatsuki Fujimoto for bringing to Jump. The next one I gave 4 stars is Witch Watch, chapters 1 to 10, by Kento Shinohara. This is the Astrolust and Space Dude, but more relevant to this particular series is that he is the scat dance dude. This series is about a witch girl and her familiar, who is an Oni guy. They translate it as ogre, which is never not funny for the entire 10 chapters I read. I'm like, okay, like, if you understand Japanese culture enough to, like, laugh at the jokes in Witch Watch, then you know what an Oni is. You know? Like, I've got questions for the localizer, but, that's neither here nor there. He doesn't look like an Oni at all. He's just got, like, his little, like, hair antenna sticks straight up like a horn. Otherwise, he just looks like a guy. And he's really strong. Her mom is, like, a super powerful divination witch, and she's, like, gotten this very vague prophecy that some disaster is going to befall this girl. So she's like, hey, you're her familiar, you're childhood friends, you're super strong, need you to, like, help her figure out what this disaster is and prevent it. And meanwhile, she's not present because she's off in the witch's holy land trying to divine more details. But the first 10 chapters, I feel like this is another one where right at the end of the first 10 chapters we get the first major shift in the story, where it does get a bit more serious, with more villains being introduced and also more allies. For the first few chapters, it's just like them getting comfortable with each other, like living in the same house, starting to go to school, and, you know, it's very much the joke that, like, her class, like, she immediately introduces herself, like, hey, I'm a witch. So, like, they know that she's a witch. Pretty quick, they know that he's an Oni as well. This isn't a secret at all. It's very matter of fact. And, like, it's such a dumb, like, running gag within the series that, like, everyone has, like, these really stupid pun names. And I laughed at every single one of them. It doesn't really translate too well because, like, first of all, they changed the order of the names to a Western order. Again, I've got questions for the localizer here, because you're ruining the joke, but it's also you're not, because people reading don't know Japanese, so it's like, I don't know. You ruined the joke for me specifically, and that makes me sad. I need to read this in Japanese, is the conclusion I'm coming to. Anyway, I really like the two main characters. There's been some really funny jokes. I like Shinohara-sensei's sense of humor. I liked it in Astra as well. I liked it in what I've seen of Sket Dance. It's a very, like, down-to-earth kind of sense of humor. It kind of builds on itself to something funnier, but it's mostly just, like, these kids... you know? Like,
oh, these crazy kids.
You know, the Oni kids, like, okay, because, like, all the kids are coming to the witch girl, like, hey, show us some magic, show us some magic. Mm-hmm. And the Oni kids, like, okay, well, be responsible, don't, like, magic isn't a toy. And she's like, oh, I got some magic for you. Just tell me what you want and I got it. Magic can do anything. They're, like, trying to figure out what dumb thing that they should do to prank the teacher who's gonna come in a little late. She's like, oh, I got this great anti-gravity spell, hang on. And then there's a beat, and the teacher walks in, and it's like an Escher painting. They're all, like, got their desks on the walls and the ceiling. And she's just like, what the fuck? That's pretty good. I also like the one where it's like... Because she's got a really obvious crush on the Oni kid, right? But he hasn't... He doesn't have a clue. I really like the little asides that are like the reality TV show asides where she's like, yeah, I've got him wrapped around my finger. But there's this whole chapter where it's like she feels like she's not fashionable enough because she's always wearing the same smocks. So she's like, I could put some effort into how I look and actually think about, like, fashion and get some new clothes to coordinate. Mm-hmm. Or I could just solve all my problems with magic. Narrator's like, she decided to solve all of her problems with magic. So she gets some fashion magazines, and she's like, I have a spell that'll let me just, like, put on my body whatever I see in the magazine. Mm-hmm. The problem is that magazines are two-dimensional, so I end up with clothing that has a completely transparent back. So she, like, finds a cute outfit in the magazine and, like, you know, changes her clothes into it, but, like, her back is completely see-through. And I was impressed with how non-sexual the nudity here was. Because it's like, you can see her panties, but it's, like, not sexy, it's just... Yep, that's underwear.
It's actually like, oh, well, that's embarrassing for you, versus, like, oh, sexy teen girl undies.
Yeah, right. And then she's like, well, I obviously can't go out in this, but I really want him to see me in this outfit, because it's, like, super cute. I'm just gonna show him the front, and then I'll change out. So she goes down to see him, and, like, shows him the clothes, and he does not register at all that she's changed clothes. She's like, yep, that's an outfit. But, like, you know, obviously hijinks happen where it's like she has to keep trying to hide the back from him. And then, in the end, she does get found out, but he doesn't see anything because, like, there's something in the way But he's like, I did register that the back of your clothing was completely transparent. And I was like, what are you doing? But I thought maybe that's the trend these days. But then the punchline in the end is that, well, of course you have the sweet moment where he's like, I like your smocks, I think they're great. I think they suit you. You've got a very, like, free spirit, and I think that you should wear the clothes that you like the best. And it's like, aww. But then he's like, actually, let me look at this. This is really good. And he, like, looks at the smock that she's wearing, and he's like, when is this from? And she's like, I think it's a hand-me-down from my great-grandma. He's like, this is, like, a Parisian dress from the 1920s. Oh my god, I didn't know we had the same interest. I love vintage European fashion. Didn't you know that the jacket that I always wear is a vintage piece from the 40s? Oh my gosh, to think we have the same hobby this whole time. She's very wholesome.
Very sweet.
I mean, if you've read Astra, the relationships between those kids is also very sweet.
Sket Dance, too.
Yeah. Good stuff. I am enjoying that one. Even as it gets a bit darker, it still keeps that sense of humor, and I'm looking forward to more. Have you read Witch Watch?
Yes, I'm not up to date with it, but I have read a dozen or so chapters of whatever's out. It's a good one. Cool. It's one that I was anticipating a lot when it was announced, like when they said that this creator had a new series from a creator that I already enjoyed. And I've read Astra. I haven't read Sket Dance because that's not available to read legally anywhere, but I have seen the entirety of the show. I like the sense of humor. I like how, as Ray said, like, the comedy does build on itself a lot, and then in a similar way to something like Gintama, where there's a lot of humor interspersed, which makes the dramatic or darker parts more effective, because obviously you care about these characters through their comedy hijinks. You've grown to love them. That's what I experienced through Sket Dance. I wouldn't be surprised if that was a similar trajectory for this series, although we're still in pretty early days for it.
Yep. The next one that I read is one I've been hemming and hawing on for a while, because I don't like how Boichi draws women.
Yep.
But I read 15 chapters of Dr. Stone, and I'll probably read more. I liked it.
Yeah.
I don't like the designs for the women, but
This is my eternal gripe. The character designs for the women are not the designs inherently, but just the way the women are drawn are terrible. They're horrendous. But it's quite the science is good. I do enjoy, or I do appreciate any series that makes science interesting to kids, and I do think Dr. Stone does do that. I think it's it knows how to make this kind of setup interesting with its kind of larger plot, but also educational and compelling in a way that kids would enjoy. Relating it back to stuff that they would recognize. I think that a lot of the side characters are really interesting. The larger plot of trying to get society back to where it was is that's very I don't necessarily think we want to bring back capitalism, but all right.
Yeah, right.
So it's
I'm you know what, the villain guy, I can't say I'm on his side either, but he does make a few points.
Yeah, there's certainly points that have been made. And for having read 15 chapters, it's that first villain is not really a villain. He's the villain of the first arc, but he's not the big bad.
No.
So he's allowed to be redeemed, of which he is. Like, There's not a surprise. This is a very shonen series. But I like the series a lot for kind of the quirkiness that it has. I do think it's quite funny when it wants to be. I do think it's really interesting when it wants to be. I have a real issue with how the women are drawn. And that's just something that comes with Boichi's style, or at least style for this series. I don't inherently like his previous works, although I didn't like them. Sunken Rock. None of his female characters have those body designs, so I know this is a creator I know knows how to draw women. But again, I think it's similarly to, like you were saying, Seventh Garden. It's just maybe the expected audience versus actual,
but it's
skill.
like, there's so many series in Shonen Jump that, like, have normal-looking women, and they're popular characters in popular series.
Yeah, I'm not defending it. Don't make it like I'm saying that Dr. Stone can get away with it, because he really can't. But I do agree that despite that, it's a solid series. It's one that I do understand why people enjoy a lot, and why it's found kind of a pretty large popularity. It's had very popular anime adaptations. It seems to be doing very well. It's had a spin-off or two. Yeah.
Yep. And I'll also say, from the first 15 chapters, I expected not to like Senku, for much the same reasons I didn't like the little twerp from Neolation. I don't like smarmy-ass teenagers who think they're smarter than everyone. Which he is, but, like, it's kind of, like, self-aware about it, and, like, it's fun about it, where it's, like, he's, like, legitimately, like, a like, superhuman super genius, like, who was, like, making a rocket in, like, 5th grade or something. The series has a sense of humor about itself and a self-awareness about itself. I also like that him and, like, the dumb guy who's, like, the other main character and his foil, they were friends before the disaster, and they love and trust each other a lot for their respective strengths, and that's sweet, So it's sweet. They respect the girl as well, which is nice.
Yeah. Taiju is the other kid, and although he has kind of a romance with the girl character, I really appreciate that there's no romance for Senku, like, at all. I've read 200 something chapters. This kid is so asexual. Like, he just has zero interest. And he's like, no, too busy doing science. I can't even think about girls. Which kind of makes it funny that there's all these extremely busty girls around, with their alien bodies. He's just like, don't even look at me. I'm too busy doing science. And I'm like, honestly,
you know what? If, like, every man in the world looked like a normal human being and every woman looked like a fucked up alien, I probably wouldn't be bisexual anymore. To be honest. But yeah, so I was having more fun with that one than I thought I would. And that's nice. I have one more 4-star title to talk about. This is one that, like, I don't... Like, I feel like people all say the same thing about this one, which is great protagonist underutilizes him. But I am not sure because I've only read 10 chapters, and this is Robot Laserbeam by the Kuroko's basketball guy. Have you read this one?
I have not, so please inform me on what I'm missing.
Yeah, so this is a golf manga. It is obviously, Fujimaki Sensei, like, it's his newer title, so it's his style from, like, recent Kuroko's basketball. It doesn't have any of the growing pains that the art style has at the beginning of Kuroko's basketball. It looks very good. The golf is, like, it's very easy to follow where the ball's going, what the characters are doing well or poorly. And the rules of golf are portrayed, like, explained to you in a very easy to understand way. Which I appreciate because I don't know anything about golf and I don't care about golf. So we've only just, in the first 10 chapters, we've only just, like, had the main character join the golf club at his school and start to get to know some of the members. But basically, the main character is a kid named Robato. And his nickname is Robo because he's very robotic. He is very much, like, they don't say on the spectrum, but he very much is. Like, I don't feel that's, like, it's not even hinting at it, like, he just is. You know, he very much... I really like this kid a lot. Like, he is earnest and sweet, but, like, he legitimately does not... Like, he doesn't understand what people are telling him a lot of the time. And his friends kind of, you know, obviously they call him Robo, so it's like they make jokes about him, but they also accommodate him. Like, when he doesn't understand something, he asks, like, hey, I didn't follow what you meant there. Can you explain that to me? And, you know, he's got a very flat affect, but his friends understand that, you know, it's not that he doesn't care, or it's not that he's trying to be mean or overly blunt. It's just that's how he responds to the world around him, right? So his friend really wants him to join the golf club, and he doesn't want to because he doesn't care about competition or sports at all. He's like, you know, I've never had a competitive feeling in my life. Very bluntly, he's like, I don't care about golf and I don't want to play golf. But his friend, like, takes him to a, one of those, like, indoor driving ranges, you know? And, it's just like, well, I feel like practicing because I'm really into golf right now because I just joined the golf club. And, so they're, like, hitting the balls a little bit. And it turns out that our boy, Robo, has an incredible skill. He can hit this ball so straight, so straight, so strong, so far for a beginner. It's like a laser beam. And, you know, the super talented... recently on TV all the time, like, high school golf dude who's gonna be the rival, right? He happens to overhear this and is like, that is the most perfect sound I've heard ever. I have to know who this kid is. And eventually, like, he figures out that it's this kid Robo, and, like, they have, like, this little casual match, and he's, like, super mad because literally the only thing that this kid can do is hit a ball really straight when it's on the tee. If he's hitting it from, like, the green, right?
Yeah.
He can hit it so straight. Nothing else. He doesn't know how to account for wind. He doesn't know how to account for different terrain. And most infuriatingly of all, he does not want to play golf. And in that way, he's the complete opposite of this kid who's, like, just so, like, fiery passion. I'm gonna, like, just be the best golf player. I can't understand how you could, like, enjoy playing golf without wanting to be the very best, the best there ever was. That's just what loving a sport means to me. But also through this match, like, Robo is like, actually, maybe I kind of am interested in this, and maybe something about this rival kid, like, pisses him off, and he's like, like, the way that he was treating his friend or something, and he's like, I'm gonna beat him at golf. I am gonna be good enough to get into a professional match, a tournament, against this kid, and I'm gonna beat him at golf. And so, you know, that becomes his motivation to join the golf club, and that's pretty much where I'm at. Like, he's currently playing, like, a doubles thing against these, like, super, like, gentrified, like, this, like, asshole, like, Karen couple who, like, show up at the golf course, just, like, they fucking own the place, totally abusing this poor caddy who got stuck with them, and they're like, no. So they're, like, trying to do a match to humiliate them, which I appreciate. So I'm enjoying this a lot. It really is, like, just a stellar protagonist is the strongest thing this series has going for it right now. But I am interested to read more.
It's interesting, because obviously this mangaka is well known for Kuroko's basketball. But it's interesting that despite from, what you've described, Robo-kun having this, like, supernatural ability, or this amazing power of golf, maybe it's because it's a shorter series, because obviously Kuroko was 30 volumes long, and this one is only 6 or 7. It'd be interesting to see how that kind of, like, magical sports ability stuff comes into it, because that was always, like, I enjoy Kuroko for what it is, but it's very dumb, and it's definitely not my favorite sports series. And it was because and it was because of that, just like, this is crazy, all these teens have actual superpowers, and what is going on? But I'm curious now to actually start this one, because it sounds interesting, and I look forward to it. And I didn't realize that Viz had released it all either.
Like I said, I don't know many characters yet, so it's like, you've got Robo's laser beam, right, that he's really good at. And then you've got, the kid he's, like, playing a game with right now, who, you know, is completely changing the game for Robo, because he's like, I thought I was supposed to hit the ball straight towards the hole. But this kid's got a killer curve.
Oh my god.
And of course, it's like, when he hits this, like, insane, like, curve, it's called, like, the serpent strike or something, and there's, like, a huge snake behind the ball. So, I mean, I'm sure it's gonna, like, be, like, you know, super golf, but,
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. That's okay. Alright. 5 stars.
We've made it!
We've made it. There's only 3 titles on this. First of all, we have, hinted at earlier, realized now, Chainsaw Man by Tatsuki Fujimoto. I read the first 10 chapters, so I have a lot left to go. I literally, like, went to my friend, and I was like, you ever just read a manga that, like, reminds you why you love manga? Like, it was so much fun to read. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
I don't even know what else to say. It's just so much fun.
Yeah. I adore Chainsaw Man in so many ways. It is obviously the more recent of Fujimoto, well, not the most recent, but the most recent serialized of his works, and it's completed, the first part's completed, it's returning sometime this year for part 2, to which I am extremely excited for. This is one that, similarly to his other works, I feel like this one's more approachable than Fire Punch, because obviously this is a little more suited to Jump.
Yes.
You can't get away
Having read
with
10 chapters, yes.
It can't get away with bestiality and incest and cannibalism nearly as much as Fire Punch could. But that's not to say that certain elements are out beyond the pale of normal Jump stuff. I love this series so much. I love Denji, I love Power, I love everyone. They're all so good.
Yep.
These children, and
precious little meow meows. Everyone.
Yes, everyone. And I'm really interested to see how you feel as it goes on, because it gets better and better, I think, in my opinion. It's honestly one of the most... You saying at 10 chapters, going to a friend and saying, you know, have you ever read something that reminds you why you enjoy manga so much? This is honestly something that comes up constantly for me, just reading through it. It's one of the best comics. It's kind of one of the best things that I've read. It's so good. It's fun, punchy, crazy, bizarre, wild ability. Building the series, building the setting, building the characters, building their lives. But then also, like with Fire Punch, like with his other work, which I think is going to come up in a minute, it has just the really quiet, introspective character writing as well. There's a beautiful, I think it's chapter 40, where Denji and Makima go to like a film festival where it's like 12 hours or 18 hours of just movies, non-stop movies, and they're all like weird B-budget, like these are not Hollywood bests, right? And at the end of it, like they watch all these things, and some are terrible, and you don't see them, we don't know what they're watching, but we see their reactions to these things. And afterwards they're walking home or walking back, and there's a conversation about like sitting through all of those, like the really bad things, stuff that was just like pure schlock. It was all worth it, because one of the last films they saw was just life-changing, so beautiful and unexpected, and something that affected them so much. And I think that's just such a great testament to art. Again, I think it ties in a lot to Fujimoto's love of film. And it's just, wow, like that was such a poignant scene, and such a quiet character moment that you don't expect in this series about a guy who's like a deep chainsaw.
His head and arms turn into chainsaws,
and who like rips demons up, and there's blood everywhere, and people are losing limbs, and all of a sudden Powers over here just talking shit and then puking up vegetable. It's just like, this is you know, it's a crazy wild ride, as is all of Fujimoto's stuff. But also, like all of Fujimoto's stuff, it's just so it understands people in a way that a lot of manga doesn't understand people. These characters feel like people. Ultimately, they don't feel like tropes. They don't feel like characters created for a story. It's more like we're watching the lives of people who, in some capacity, exist, right? I don't know if that's explaining very well, but yeah.
You know, where I am, they've just sort of finished the first big, like, thing with the bat monster, and they introduced Power, and I really love that, like, her and Denji, even though they're constantly fighting over it, and she uses it as a way to, like, betray him, they ultimately bond over how much they love their pets. Like, that's so wholesome and so human. Like, it's such a simple thing, but I feel like that really gets at this big beating heart that's at the center of it. Even in these first 10 chapters, it's like, you know, you have Denji, who it's like, has just been absolutely beaten on since he was born, you know, like sold into slavery and all this, like, constantly being beaten and, like, not educated at all. the most mundane of hopes just, like, has kept him going this whole time. Just the love that he has for his dog, his weird, ugly dog with a chainsaw coming out of it. And then, like, the most mundane, like, tiny little hope of just, like, one day touching a boob.
Yeah, he's such a 15-year-old boy. He's just like, at one point, I could die happy if I touched a boob. And you're like, oh.
I've heard that boobs are nice, and I think it would be nice to touch one, maybe.
I sure would like to see a girl in real life one time.
Yeah.
And you're like, hello.
But it's like, again, it's like just this small thing that has come to symbolize, like, human warmth and connection to him as someone who's grown up without any of it. And it's just, like, so sweet. And yeah, like, and Power being, like, you know, a blood demon, right? So she's like a vampire. She's gotta, like, drink blood, you know. And, you know, she's always gone around, like, killing creatures and humans and being like, I love blood, I love the taste, I love the smell. Like, it shows her, like, backstory going through all this just, like, death and murder. And then just she finds this cat and, like, nurses it back to health. And you see her, like, cuddled up with the cat, like, cuddled up, you know, with her. And she's like, for the first time I realized how warm blood can be. And it's like, oh.
Man, girl, get ready to get wrecked by their little found family with Aki.
I know! I'm gonna cry so much. The series is gonna make me cry.
Yes, I guarantee it. I'm sorry.
But also, it's so fucking sick.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It's just so fucking sick and dope. And rad. And, I just, like, I saved a panel from this one really early on, right after Denji meets the pineapple-haired guy. I always forget his name. But,
Aki.
Yeah. And then, but he's just, like, fighting him, and he's like, would I fight guys? I only aim for the crotch! I was like, I love him. I love him so much.
These kids are so good. It's also really, it's really funny. It's sick as hell. It's funny as hell. When it's not being just, like, the largest existential crisis nightmare that you'll ever have.
Yep.
But yeah, this is a phenomenal manga. I love it to bits, and I cannot wait for it to return to us.
I can't wait to read more. And yes, G has accurately predicted the next thing I was going to bring up, which is also by Tatsuki Fujimoto, and I also liked it enough to give it 5 stars on my extremely casual scale. This is a one-shot called Look Back. It's like 140 pages long or something. And it is brilliant. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
It's very, very interesting. It's about, like, a girl who, from elementary school, like, she draws these little 4-panel comics for the school newspaper every day. And, like, they're super amateurish and, like, they're just, like, these little dumb jokes. Although every single one that we see is an absolute banger of a joke, which,
yeah, they're great.
It's just a testament to Fujimoto Sensei. You know, it's very, like, you know, this was drawn by a 4th grader who's, like, kind of good at art, right? I know, because I used to be a little 4th grader who was kind of good at art. And that's what my drawings looked like. She mostly does it because of the attention that she gets from it, from, like, you know, her little small town school. She's very, like, haughty about it. And one day, like, she's asked by a teacher if she would give up one of the comic slots to a girl who does not come to school. She's a shut-in.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, well, it's pretty hard to get as good at drawing as I am, but I suppose I can grant an opportunity to one of the little people. In the issue of the newspaper where this shut-in girl's comic runs, it's, you know, very impressive, like, landscape art that is, you know, in terms of technical skill, very clearly better than the other girl. Because there's more effort put into it, right? And, like, this crushes her. She's like, what? Like, no, I'm supposed to be the best artist in this school, okay? Mm. Like, that's why I draw, is to be the best artist at this school. I think after that, like, she starts, like, because the kids in school are like, you know, when you put this next to the shut-in girl's work, it looks really amateurish, huh? And so she, like, starts, like, drawing obsessively through all of her classes. Instead of doing homework, she picks up all these, like, drawing books on how to draw and, like, desperately works to get better at drawing.
Mm-hmm.
And gradually improves the quality of her little comics in terms of technical skill. But, like, she can never be as good as these landscape drawings from this shut-in girl. And meanwhile, her grades are in the toilet. Her parents are like, when are you going to give up and actually, like, do something worthwhile with your future? Right? Mm-hmm. All of her friends are like, you know, don't you think it's pretty childish to be drawing all the time? And, you know, eventually she hits a breaking point where she just realizes that, like, she's been working so hard, and yet she's still not as good as this person, by whatever metric that she considers to be worthwhile. Mm-hmm. And so she gives up on art completely. Mm-hmm. And then the very last day, she gets asked by the teacher, hey, can you, like, go give the diploma to the shut-in girl? I think she would really like to see you more than she would like to see me. And so she's like, well, fine, I guess. I don't want to. And she goes, and I'm, like, emotional. She goes to, like, give her the diploma, but of course, like, it seems like nobody's home. She's obviously shut in her room. So she just sort of thoughtlessly slides her this little comic, encouraging her to, like, come out of her room. Like, it's a little wry joke. And then she leaves, and the girl comes running out to see her and is like, oh my god, I've been a fan of yours since you started drawing comics in the 4th grade. You are the one who encouraged me to draw. Your comics mean everything to me. When you started suddenly improving so much in the 5th grade, I was so impressed. But you stopped drawing all of a sudden. And I want to know why. Please draw again. And she's like, you know, overtaken by this. She's like, I guess the reason I stopped is because, like, you know, I was actually thinking of, like, submitting a story to this, like, rookie award. And, like, to be honest, the whole thing's planned out in my head. I basically just have to, like, draw it. And, you know, deciding to do this on the spot. And so she gets back into drawing and, like, actually submitting her stuff for manga. Eventually the two of them end up teaming up under one pen name, you know, drawing manga together. Through high school, they end up being quite the duo, getting a lot of very popular one-shots, and eventually they get greenlit for a series. And at this point, the second girl, the shut-in girl, is like, you know, working with you has meant so much to me, but I can't work on this series with you because I want to go to art school. I want to be better at art. And the first girl is like, you know, why would you do something so meaningless? If you just stayed with me, everything would be fine, you know. But ultimately, they go their separate ways, and she continues working on the series and stacking up volumes. And then, I don't know, do I spoil the twist, I guess?
I feel like it's people who should read this. Like, if you haven't read this yet, go read it.
Yeah.
You don't have an excuse. It's on launch the Jump Plus app. I'm pretty sure it's on there for free. Like, you don't even have to have the membership. Go read it.
Yeah. It's really good. It's very much about, like, why we create art and what art means. That's really the essence of what it's about, I feel like, more than anything else. Why do we create art? And the answer that it has is very sweet. It's very sweet.
I think there's also... this is maybe me projecting, but there's also an element, I think, of self-reflection by Fujimoto with this on his own career and perhaps where his life has taken him. Like, the manga that this girl has put together is very obviously
it's Fujimoto Sensei manga, yeah.
Yeah. I
think her series is called, like, Shark Kid or something.
Yeah. Like, it's very much his manga. So it's, like, obviously how the series wraps up. It does make me wonder, because this obviously came out after he finished Chainsaw Man, which was a smash hit, like, hugely popular. If how much of this story is him reflecting on his own process, his own question as to why he creates art, and especially creates art in the way that he does. It's really, it's so beautiful. I love this so much, and it was got a lot of buzz from the regular places when it came out, as it deserves, because it really is phenomenal, just fantastic.
And this is, like, the most purely distilled, like, example of just how much heart his stuff has in it, and how much of an understanding for how people work. Minus all of the, B-movie schlock and blood and gore and cannibalism.
Yes.
So if you're like, what is the deal with this Fujimoto guy? I heard his series is called Chainsaw Man. That's weird. Give this one shot a look. Maybe you will find yourself intrigued to see what the big deal is with this man with his chainsaws. The final one that I want to talk about is 5 stars, because it's just like, it hit all my buttons. It's very short so far because it is new. This is not a surprise, knowing how much I love Hell's Paradise. I really love the first 8 chapters of Ayashimon by Yuji Kaku.
Hell yeah!
Because, again, it is sick and dope and fire and whatever the kids are saying. I love it. Lit!
Oh, it's so good. I just caught up with this one last night. I'd read the first 5 or so chapters, so I only needed to read 3 or 4 more. But, oh my god,
so
I love
good.
this series so much.
I love this series, like, vision of the Yakuza as, like, just the most, like, fucked up looking, like, yokai monsters.
Yeah.
So dope. If you know, like, what the monsters look like in Hell's Paradise, like, Yuji Kaku, my man's got good taste in monster drawing. Just so good. I like the main pair, the boy with the super strength who just, like, finds out about this world of yokai where, like, these yokai don't give a fuck about, like, human morality. It's just, survival of the fittest, like, the strongest win, losers lose. And he's like, finally, a world for me.
But then also, it has the little bit of heart wherein he's like with Fujimoto, like, or Denji, this kid is a survivor. Like, he's projecting, he's created this world, or he's projected himself on this world where, heroes and villains are very black and white because of his whole upbringing.
Because of, like, his whole abusive upbringing. And he's like, I'm gonna be a hero who can beat the shit out of this rotten dad who made my childhood hell. And he did. and he, like, fucking murdered the fuck out of his dad because he became so super strong, because it's like the One Punch Man backstory, where it's like he just worked so hard at becoming stronger that now he's like a fucking demon.
He's just crazy strong.
And now it's like if he, like, slaps a kid, like, their entire mouth falls out. Which is a very attractive trait to the heroine of the series, who is, like, the daughter of the previous, like, big crime boss who has been usurped. And she wants to take back the entire underworld. She wants to be, like, a Yakuza boss, despite being, you know, a little girl. Obviously not in the good graces of anybody, because she is the daughter of the guy who's been beaten. Right? So she's like, we're starting a Yakuza family right now, you and me, 2 people, population 2, and we are gonna take the underworld by storm. But of course, you know, there's the beating heart with her as well. Obviously having suffered a lot of trauma related to losing her father and everything that she'd grown up with. Being very lonely and, you know, maybe not seeing this dumb human kid as just a pawn to be used in her games. Maybe not seeing, you know, the gate woman as just a pawn. And that will surely be developed upon in the coming chapters. This is a very new series. It's only 8 chapters, so...
Yeah, it's hard to talk about this one because it is so new, but again, this is one that I was highly anticipating because obviously I adore Hell's Paradise. That's not a secret, and I loved it so much that I bullied Ray into starting it.
Yes, and then I also loved it so much.
Yeah, so, you know... Similarly, as I mentioned, like, it has that beating heart, it has the hyper-violence, just the crazy, bizarre monster. I don't know what the initial inspiration for this kind of, like, crazy monster, violent, yokai sort of story was in Shonen Jump. I don't know whether it was because of Chainsaw Man or even predating that, stuff like Jujutsu Kaisen or Demon Slayer. But man, oh man, the good stuff that has come out of that, and as someone who does enjoy, like, Demon Slayer's great, I do like Jujutsu Kaisen quite a bit. I'm so happy that, like, this and Chainsaw Man and Dan are, like, exist. Like, I'm living my best life in Jump right now because there's so much stuff that appeals directly to me, the consumer that matters.
Yep. It's like, I saw so many yokai manga and I was like, damn, this is a field day for G specifically.
There's plenty that are terrible, some of which we've talked about. There's plenty that are, like, good, not great, but the standout stuff is really some of the best, like, honestly, some of the best comics coming out. There's just so much creativity and freedom that from Jump, like, you wouldn't necessarily expect it from Jump, which for the last 10, 15, 20 years has had at least the perception of being very by the numbers, you know, shonen hero fare. And that's not because every series in the magazine was like a One Piece, but because we, for a long time, didn't get a lot of these titles. So having immediate access to everything in the magazine now is just opening up, I think, people's awareness, at least in the English side. Because obviously, prior to this, when we just had to rely on scans or had to rely on the stuff that got anime adaptations, all you saw was the Narutos and the Bleaches and the, like, Hunter Hunters and whatever else, which are all good. Like, that's not to cast aspersions, but any of the weird, quirky things that may have had a cult following or may have had, like, really cool ideas but never saw like found their footing to the same levels as those, you know, tentpole series. Now we're getting them, and it's just, ooh, I'm enjoying myself.
Yeah. And I also don't want to, like, understate Fujimoto-sensei specifically's influence on the weirder side of this, just because both the creator of, Yuji Kaku, the creator of Ayashimon, and the creator of Dandadan formerly worked with Fujimoto-sensei.
And they all have, same, were either assistants or they also have the same editor as well. A lot of really popular titles have, Shihei Lin is their editor, so even like Blue Exorcist and Spy Family, Moonland, which is one of my favorite Jump Plus titles. There's a lot of like real gems that have come out of this small team of people.
Singular. Yeah. Damn. Someone's doing their editing job great. I also just wanted to say, like, you know, I was talking to G before we started filming, but, like, I was very struck going through the good, the bad, and the ugly on this app with how much of a gulf there is between series that are not sexist at all and, like, very good with their female characters and, like, wow, we've grown so much as a society. And, like, the bottom of the barrel schlock, which is so sexist in the most, like, old, like, gross, just, like, crusty old ways that imaginable, where it's just like, wow, I feel like I walked into 1987, you know, is just fascinating to me. And it really shows, like, just how little Shonen Jump cares about how women are represented and how much, you know, good female representation within Jump is dependent on creators who see like women as human beings, just like individual creators, which is both sort of heartwarming and mostly just really sad. But also, I just wanted to point out Ayashimon, you know, Hell's Paradise, Fujimoto's stuff, and Dandadan are all series that have extremely crass senses of humor and a lot of nudity that also are just, like, mostly really normal about their female characters, which is nice. But yeah, I guess, gosh, this is going to be a long episode, but we need to finish up with questions, I think.
Yes, just before we get into questions, like, obviously Ray has done such a huge amount of work, and it's amazing that she got through so much. That's, in saying that, like, there's so much, that's barely scratching the surface. That's a lot of the ongoing stuff, a lot of the recently ended or completed, cancelled stuff. But obviously the Jump app has all of the hugely popular stuff like My Hero Academia, Jujutsu Kaisen. Their website also has stuff like Hell's Paradise, like Golden Kamui. Just, there's so much there, and I don't think we can state enough just like how much is available to read.
So much
with the service. It's actually incredible.
So much. It's distressing. It is distressing.
Thank you, everyone who sent in questions. We first and foremost will have Lumran Mayasha's questions. They sent in a couple. Okay. First is, how do you feel about Manga Plus, or I'll say Shonen Jump? We did say that we would be talking about both in this, but just because of the amount there's no way we could fit both services in just one episode. So how do you feel about the Jump app, the pros and cons of both, and then comparatively to Manga Plus?
Yeah, so I can only speak for the browser websites, so you can talk about the apps after I go talk about the website. experience. I greatly preferred Manga Plus because I can just do the infinite scroll thing.
Mm-hmm.
I can load an entire chapter at once with my shitty apartment Wi-Fi. That's a lifesaver. I can, like, zoom in and out easily. And it just very closely mimics the experience of, you know, when I was just a wee fan reading scanlations online. So it comes very naturally to me as well. I appreciated that. Shonen Jump was very, very hard on my eyes because I could not zoom into the pages the way that I wanted to without making it a much slower reading process. And every time I zoomed in, like, even just zooming in once, pixelated the images so much, it was hard to read. With my garbage Wi-Fi and the fact that I had to use a VPN, which further throttled everything, I would often have the issue of just my chapter would stop loading right in the middle, and I would have to refresh the entire page and try to go through loading the entire chapter again, page by page. It would stop, it would accidentally repeat pages. It was just very buggy due to connection issues. Those are the main things. I also was, like, sad that I can't add one-shots to my favorites. I wish I was able to do that. So, for me, I preferred the reading experience of Manga Plus.
Yeah, I think those are all really great points, and I agree with a lot of them. I do appreciate that the Viz app has backlog for everything, whereas, at least where I live, there's a lot of series, a lot of the current Jump stuff on Manga Plus doesn't have the middle chapters. Like, it'll have the first 3 and then the last 3, which is great if you've been following scans or if you're up to date. But for me, who reads, like, I won't read something for a long time, and then I will want to binge, 10, 20, 50 chapters. It means that I don't really have an option if I was just relying on Manga Plus. Obviously, another great another pro for Manga Plus is it's completely free. There's no kind of subscription at all. Although I would argue that the Viz Jump app is not, like, that's not going to break anyone's bank. But, if you are just wanting the latest chapters of your favorite Jump titles, and a lot of their Jump Plus titles do have the whole series there available, so it's not like everything's missing chapters. It does mean that, that's dependent on what you're looking for.
Jumping in to say, Manga Plus also has this thing where it's like, it is all dependent on the rights that they have at the moment, so, like, you could have a series that had all of its chapters for so long just suddenly be one of the ones with its first 3 and last 3.
Yes.
Like, without hardly a moment's notice. So.
Blue Flag is a great example of that. I don't know whether or not summertime rendering has switched, but I wouldn't be surprised if that does in the future, because that's now been licensed for print here, or in English. But yeah, I like both services. They both have their strengths and weaknesses for me. Obviously, some titles are available on one versus the other, but generally, for a lot of unless it's a title that I am actively keeping up to date with, or I know that the chapters won't disappear on me, I will use Manga Plus for. And if it's one that I wait on and I know that the chapters are going to time out after about 3 or 4 weeks, then I will use the Viz app. So for me, like, Dan is not on the Viz app just because it's very violent and a lot of nudity. So I use Manga Plus for that, and then kind of vice versa for everything else. I use for the Jump app for Spy Family and things like that. So it's just, for me, it's ease of use and, obviously relevant to my interests. So yeah. The second question that Lumramayasha did, Whimsy Dearest asks is there a series on the app you feel is really underrated that you wish more people would read, particularly the short-lived or cancelled series?
I'm not, like, on the pulse of, like, what's popular, so... Any of the ones that I put 4 or 5 stars on.
Phantom Seer. Yeah, that would be mine. It wasn't inherently, like, it wasn't unpopular. It certainly had its fans, but I do wish that it would have had the opportunity to keep going a bit more, because, you know, I think there was a larger story that could have been told if given the opportunity. Both Phantom Seer and Meru, I think I would have liked to see more of. And they never really found their footing, obviously in Japan, or they certainly weren't the most popular things when they were coming out either. But sometimes you just gotta root for the underdog. That's what shonen's all about. So yeah,
I'll agree with both of those. I think for canceled series that I read, those are two with the most potential cross-manage as well.
And then the third question that Lumran Mayasha asked was, what Jump titles currently not on the app do you want to see added?
I don't know.
I'm not that well versed on, like, everything Jump. But if I had to choose, I would say Sket Dance, because
yeah,
I want to read that.
Yeah. That's a good one. I agree with that one. I would like Sket Dance also.
I don't know if Gintama's on the app. I feel like maybe the little bit that got translated is, I don't know. I'd have to look, but yeah,
it might be on Manga Plus. I don't remember.
I don't know. But yeah, Sket Dance would be my choice. But again, that's coming from someone with very little, like, historical knowledge of everything that Jump has ever put out. I'm still kind of overwhelmed by what is available. I'm slowly working my way through.
I would like Yu Yu Hakusho, because I don't feel like collecting it physically, and I would like to be able to reread it at random intervals.
Then we have Stories on Shelves at Storage Shelves asked quite a few questions. Who are some of your favorite characters?
Out of all of the Shonen Jump app, so including the stuff we didn't talk about, I love everybody in Spy Family so dearly. Especially Anya and Lloyd. I love Denji. Look, I love my homies, you and Mikaela from Sarah of the End. I gotta be real here. I also love my boy Gabimaru and my girl with the long name, also from Hell's Paradise. I love a lot of people. I love Robo too. I already said that. So
aside from many, like Denji and well, I love Power as well, and Aki. Like, Chainsaw Man. They're those weirdos. I love them to bits. I love the two from Dan 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 as well. They're great.
I love them too.
For longer stuff or stuff that we didn't really talk about, I love pretty much the entire cast of Haikyuu. Like, just, I love them all. They're all good kids. I love the main cat. They're on the Jump app. I love all my kids from Blue Flag. They're all important and close to my heart.
Oh, I love all the kids from Astra too.
The Astra kids are
they're
good.
Close to my heart.
I love so many of the Hell's Paradise people. I love them all. They're great. For Jump particularly, so aside from Haikyuu, and just that entire cast of kids, I love Hunter x Hunter. Like, I love Gon and Killua. They're so important to me.
Yeah. And Kurapika and Leorio.
Yes, all of them. I love the kids, Hikaru and Akira from Hikaru no Go. There's just, I love a lot of these young boys. I also really like the kids from Blue Box, you know, they're very sweet, very down to earth, very emblematic of being early teens. And as someone who is out of her early teens, I just want to protect all these children. These are all my children to protect.
Your precious babies.
Yes, exactly. Even if there may be one or two that are older than me, they're still my precious children.
But, like, I love a lot of the, you know, the characters from, like, the big ones. Like, I love a whole lot of Naruto kids, you know?
Naruto is such a good kid.
I grew up on this stuff, man. Yeah, he's such a good kid, such a good boy. I grew up loving Shikamaru. I love a lot of those kids. You know, Sakura, you know, probably more if I could remember anybody's name. I like most of them, to be honest. Like, I like Naruto. I like Naruto.
I like the Jujutsu Kaisen kids as well. Like, I think there's a really solid cast, and I enjoy their adventures.
Shonen manga. It's solid. I don't always read shonen manga, but I usually enjoy myself when I do. So, there's a lot of characters I like.
So, yeah, after naming all of the characters, stories on shelves, the following question was, are any genres or subgenres you enjoy reading?
Whatever genre Chainsaw Man is.
Yeah. Wild shit.
That's my shit. Wild, balls to the wall, what the actual fuck.
Yeah. I mean, you and I are pretty much identical in that case. Anything fucking weird. Like, just the weirdest shit. Obviously I really dig yokai manga, or like stuff that has monsters or ghosts or whatever they're gonna call them in whichever that series they're in.
Gee, you know what the Shonen Jump app needs more of?
What?
Vampire manga.
I mean, I'm not gonna disagree with you. Maybe you can will it into the world, you know?
I am. I'm willing it as we speak. And I don't want 50 more of that our blood oath shit. I want a vampire manga that's as good as Chainsaw Man. Come on.
I mean, that would be amazing. I also really enjoy sports manga. Like, that's not really a surprise, I don't think. I'm kind of picky when it comes to sports manga, but if I do like it, then I really like it, so...
I would say I'm pretty leery when it comes to, like, shonen comedy, because in general, me and 15-year-old boys don't see eye to eye on the comedy side of things. As funny as I think that, you know, bodily functions and boobs are, that is most of my sense of humor. So it's like, you think that I would see eye to eye with 15-year-old boys more than I do, but I find most Shonen Jump comedies to be almost aggressively unfunny. But when they're good, I really love them. So, like Gintama, that's my shit. So, you know, really, like, stupid comedies. When it hits, it hits.
Yeah. The comedy is such a polarizing thing. And like you said, like, when it's good, it's great. When it's bad, it's just the worst thing you've ever read.
Yeah. Yep.
So, lots of variation there.
But I would say that it is one of my favorite genres within Shonen Jump when it's done well.
Next question by Stories on Shelves is, are there any series you haven't read yet but would like to, or any you don't really have an interest in reading?
Basically, I read everything that I was interested in, and I didn't read anything that I wasn't interested in, so...
So you're set. You've got your list.
Yep, I've got the stuff I'm going to continue. Basically, if it was 3 stars and up, I'm probably going to continue it.
Yeah, for me, I've got, like, I'm following all the stuff that I'm interested in. I'm following some stuff that I'm just, like, very blasé about, but I'll finish it because it's not inherently terrible. As for backlog stuff, there's still, like, I still need to. I don't need to do anything, but I would like to read Bleach at some point. Like, there's some of the larger titles that I've never tried and am hoping to get to. I need to finish Kuroko. I'm about 6 or 7 volumes into that one. There's bits and pieces here and there, but for the most part, I've attempted at least most of the stuff that I am interested in reading. I'm currently, like, sluggishly on my behalf, not because it's a bad manga, but, like, Nura Rise of the Yokai Clan, that's something I've been slowly working towards or working through. Most of the stuff I'm not interested in is a lot of the just stuff that I know that I'm not going to be interested in. Like, a lot of the harem comedies, a lot of the just aggressively unfunny gag stuff. Oh my god, High School Family, that is the literal, like, most unfunny thing I think I could ever imagine. So, I don't know how that one's still around. But yeah, so, I think both Ray and I are pretty set in knowing what we like and what we don't like. So, typically we go for what we like.
I will say I have not read Jujutsu Kaisen yet. I didn't even try it for this because I thought it wouldn't be that interesting of a title to read. Not to read, but I mean to talk about for, like, a deep dive into the app, because I was like, people know what Jujutsu Kaisen is. But I do still want to read it. I mean, all my kids want me to read it, so I'm like, I gotta read it. And then, I was telling G earlier, but, like, growing up, I was a big Yu-Gi-Oh kid, and there's, like, all of the Yu-Gi-Oh manga, every single one, on, the Shonen Jump app, so someday I'd vaguely like to do a big Yu-Gi-Oh read, I think.
Another question from Stories on Shelves is, are there any features you'd like to see the app have in the future?
I didn't use the app, so I can't answer this.
I would say infinite scrolling would be great. That's the big one for me, which I think makes sense for anyone reading digitally. It's very similar to what I think a lot of people are used to. I mean, I don't know. I haven't read scans in freaking a long time, so I don't know what the standard is for that, but it used to be infinite scrolling was very popular, and it's kind of just standard for a lot of digital titles nowadays on, like, thanks to webtoons and stuff like that. So, that would be great. I also, like, I know that you can favorite and follow stuff. I don't, just because I find it a little bit hard to find my library, but maybe that's just a me thing. I'm just kind of dumb when it comes to that sort of stuff.
It's a pain to get to on the website as well.
I do appreciate that on the app they have, like, continue reading from the latest chapter that you've read of whatever series. That's really great. I would like to be able to, like, delete some stuff, because, like, what if I read the first chapter of something and I'm never going to go back to it? I just don't want it on on there reminding me. So that would be good. Final question that Stories on Shelves sent us was, any series that you really enjoy for the art style or paneling? Anything by Fujimoto, like, all of it, anything.
Yeah, also anything by Yuji Kaku.
Yeah. Danjadon's great as well in that sense. Haikyuu is fantastic for paneling especially.
Phantom Seer had some cool stuff going on. I would say Dr. Stone as well is cool.
Yeah.
Cool paneling.
It has cool paneling. It has cool, like, everything except for just lady
except
bodies.
the women are freakish aliens.
I also like, again, Neru for the art style. Yeah. I think it's very, there's a fluidity to it that I really liked.
Yeah, that one's nice. Bone Collection as well. I dropped that one, but I do like the art in that one a lot.
So, this is a long question, and I think it's a good one to end on. So, Chio sent, I'd love to see a service like this provided by Seven Seas and other publishers, and I think it's a great way to get caught up with manga chapters rather than waiting for a physical release. But do you guys think a service like this could overtake physical sales and perhaps discourage smaller publishing companies to release things physically and favor the much cheaper digital method? Or do you think the desire and passion for physical releases isn't really under threat, even if a service like Viz is proving hugely popular? So there's a couple things in here before I get to the actual question, wherein Chio has mentioned other publishers putting together a service like this. It's a sentiment that a lot of people have for a lot of publishers, a lot of imprints as well. I know I've seen people mention wanting a similar service for like shoujo beat titles, and you know, in a perfect world wherein contracts weren't terrible, maybe this could be possible. But unfortunately, just due to the fact that so many publishers publish from multiple different Japanese publishers, it would be way too cost prohibitive to have just one service with everything on it that a publisher was putting out. Obviously, like, Kodansha would be the second choice for that, being very much just all of their stuff is from Kodansha. But they already have a digital first or digital only program that seems to work for them. They're already like under so much pressure and stress and whatever else, that a lot of their digital titles can be very spotty. We've seen machine translation issues previously. I don't know how much we want to encourage making everything available all of the time when some of the quality that we're seeing, even from the Japanese side, like Animate International, whatever the new Japanese one is.
I would say, like, even on Manga Plus and Shonen Jump, where, you know, translation is always credited, which is very good, there are, like, chapters here and there where you can tell that the translation was a rush job. So it's like, I mean, obviously this is putting translators under a lot of stress.
Yes, very much so. And it also, like, every single one of these jump titles that debut digitally, so things like Dandadan and Kaiju number 8 and whatever else, like the Haikyuu chapters that were released before they made their print release, all of them, to go to print, to transition back to print, they all had to be, you know, retranslated, go through another round of editing and translation, as well as lettering, all these sorts of things. So it makes it easier for readers to get access to these things, but it doesn't inherently make life easier for publishers, which ultimately for businesses is, like, they want to make profits to a certain extent. You can't fault them for that. That's just how business works, right? Like, no Japanese company is going to agree to a deal or a contract that doesn't ultimately benefit them. And if a publisher is struggling so much to get things out on time, to be able to give translators the time to release, it's a very complicated process, which again is exacerbated by the fact that a lot of the Japanese side does want to do their own rounds of checks and you know, approval processes for things. It can be pretty tricky.
I just wanted to point out that everything on the Shonen Jump and Manga Plus apps is Shueisha titles. Anything for, like, Seven Seas or someone else who is working with so many different publishers and so many different magazines. The rights issue would be hell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So much hell.
So much hell. And it's like, okay, we, from the English side, we see a publisher, you know, as a single entity, right? And there are publishers like Yen Press, like Kodansha, who do have a specific Japanese publisher backing them, or Square Enix is probably a better example than Yen, backing them, but it doesn't inherently mean that they only license titles related to that publisher. Maybe Kodansha does, but again, they have their own digital process, which I'm sure is working for them. And also, they have all of their titles on, like, every single digital manga subscription service outside of the Jump app, right? They have stuff on Azuki, they have stuff on Mangamo, they have stuff on Crunchyroll. If there's aside from the Shueisha stuff, aside from the Shonen Jump app and Manga Plus and, like, Futakiya, everything else, Kodansha tries to get their digital stuff onto manga subscription services. So it's not like we're lacking for services like this. I also wanted to mention that the other kind of version that we have with this is Yen Press has they pre-publish chapter releases for several of their titles. Black Butler is a good example. Fruits Basket, another, was one of those where you could pay like 99 cents or whatever it was for that specific chapter. So if you are wanting to stay up to date with chapter releases for Black Butler or Vanitas or whatever it was, you can buy the most recent chapters for a very minimal amount, 99 cents or so, through Amazon and Comixology. So, you know, it's not like publishers aren't aware that there's a demand for simulpublication. Again, Kodansha / Crunchyroll has been doing this a long time as well for stuff like To Your Eternity, A Sign of Affection, things like that. It's just that they don't have, these other publishers don't inherently have just one major publisher or one major entity pushing it forwards, you know, at the forefront of this, and with the easy branding of Shonen Jump, right? Like it's very easy to market Shonen Jump. So that's my thoughts on like other services from publishers specifically. To actually answer your questions, do I think a service like this could overtake physical sales? No. Well, I mean, to an extent, perhaps, but considering this, a lot of this is to counteract piracy versus physical sales, that's not really the concern. This was a reaction to readers reading titles illegally, and inherently people who read stuff illegally, they're either going to buy it once it's available in English or buy the Japanese release or not anyway. Like, I don't think it has a huge impact on sales. I would argue that it has a positive impact on sales. There's been plenty of Jump titles that I've tried on the service that I then, and also Jump Plus, that I then went to go buy in print. I'd say it actually encourages people to try things and then commit to them, which they were already doing through scans anyway, and it's very dependent on a consumer. Someone who wasn't going to buy, you know, all of Naruto because they read the scans is also not going to buy all of Naruto because they read it on the Shonen Jump app. It's kind of a collector's mindset to think about like physical sales. And as for whether or not that is dissuading smaller publishers, yeah, I think it's much more the issue of multiple magazines and contracts versus like being discouraged because this might affect sales. Yeah, I mean, that's just ultimately, I think, the issue. It would be fantastic if we had a Shoujo Beat app, right? Or a Seven Seas app, or whatever the case may be. But there are so many titles that are available digitally, whether it's through Shonen Jump, whether it's through Azuki, whether it's through Mangamo, whether it's through Inker, whether it's through the 4 million Manga Planet. There's so many of these available that I don't think it's had any sort of negative impact on sales outside of what would have just been the case. That's all of our questions. And thank you everyone who sent those in, because hopefully this was an interesting discussion. I know that we talked a lot about a lot of things, and there's some great stuff on the service. There's also some terrible stuff on the service, which is not inherently surprising. But it's interesting to see how much of a mixed bag. And of course, if we didn't talk about your favorite series, it's not because we think it's bad. Or if we did talk about your favorite series and was not that impressed with it, that's fine. Enjoy what you like. Hopefully this gave a little bit of an insight to what's available. So with that, we have come to the end of our first episode for the year, and man, was it a doozy. Apologies for the length, but, you know, we try. Next month, we are doing a creator spotlight. So we are going to be talking about a whole bunch of series, two / maybe 3 series from one of my favorite mangaka. I know Ray enjoys, well, I think you enjoy this creator, Kaoru Mori. So we will be talking about her series. So send in your questions if you have them, either in the comments down below if you're watching this on YouTube, or of course at Twitter, or on Twitter, where you can find me at Collecting G, and then of course always follow Ray on her social medias. The links are in the description as well. If you enjoyed this podcast and you're new to listening to us, we are available on YouTube, Spotify, Anchor FM, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, all the major ones, the ones that matter. So you can follow us there, whichever is your preference. And that's it. Everyone look after yourself. Have a wonderful rest of the month. Hopefully your 2022 is a little bit better than last year. And I will see you next time.
Bye, guys.